The Sporting Chance podcast is brought to you by Ashley Clark Falconry, makers of fine, exquisite leather goods. Use the code SportingChance10 for a 10% discount at checkout.
And also, Midnight Falconry, makers of the tightest braided equipment on the market.
Where can you find him?
Anywhere. He's all around us.
Instagram?
He's always with us.
He's with us now.
He's with us right now. Richard Moats is the owner. You can DM him on any social media platform, but his page and his business name is Midnight Falconry. Very good equipment.
And tell him Casey and Aaron sent you.
Yeah.
And also, North Mountain Goshawks. The one and only Seth Roy is breeding true parent-reared goshawks and imprints as well. I know you can't see it right now, but I'm holding one, and it's behaving like a dream come true.
Welcome, everyone, to the Sporting Chance podcast. I am Casey Everett.
And I'm Aaron Kincaid.
And we are joined by Tom Cullen. Thank you for being here, bro. Really appreciate you coming on.
Oh, my pleasure, man.
Good for you. So just for the audience knows, I'll just give a quick little intro so we sound professional. Tom has been a falconer since he was literally born, before he was born, pretty much. And his family has been involved in falconry and breeding birds, importing birds, doing shows, doing events. Like, Tom literally just eats, sleeps, and breeds falconry and breeding and birds, just birds of prey in general. That's like all he does. And he has a lot of experience with all different kinds of birds. Really, he breeds a lot of Harris hawks, so that's why I brought him on, so we could talk about Harris hawks. And listen, becoming friends with Tom over the years. We lived where I moved up to New York. We lived close to each other, and we've gotten to know each other over the years, and we're becoming like buddies. And I'm not gonna lie, he kind of pushing me towards like the Harris hawk thing a little bit, like with all the cool things that like they're specifically able to do and how they can teach each other things that like other birds don't really have the chance to do, or they do it early on and then completely separate from their parents. The Harris hawks continue to learn and grow. And you've flown a ton of long wings also, which is super cool. So we have a lot of stuff to cover, good stories, good guest, and I have a feeling this is going to be a good one. So we're happy you're here.
I just want to point out how quick Aaron's head turned when he said you were going to be interested in Harris hawks.
Yeah.
No,
I don't know if it turned quick. It was probably real slow. Like the audience is going to be able to see it. Like,
yeah,
mouth. What the fuck?
Yeah. Well, when you have a guy that lives 20 minutes away from you that breeds them, and I could just be like, listen, man, put me on your list.
Hook it up.
Just hook it up. Put it on the list for next year. It's a little tempting,
I think you've said it every year since we met, but
I'm waiting for you to be like, I got this female right here. You want it? Come get it. And then I'll be like, oh, I don't know. And then just burst out of my closet and be like, yes.
I think that's when you'll find your true self, is when you get that Harris hawk.
My authentic self.
It's no secret that I've flown Harris hawks. I've been out west to trap them, and they can be really, really good birds.
Yes.
And, anything that's super popular like that, you're going to have a large portion of people who are doing it that are not doing it particularly well. And that's probably kind of what stands out, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But they're popular for a reason.
I was just going to say that. I was going to say that there's a reason why they're the most popular. Tom, are they the most popular bird in falconry in the world?
Probably. I mean, supposedly there's a falconry club in Mongolia that hunts with Harris hawks.
Wow.
They just freeze to death in the winter up in the mountains. They just get new ones every year from Tom.
That coming from me. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I think it's more the social aspect that a lot of people gravitate to. Just the fact, like, I mean, for me, it has always been, we fly the long, I'm saying long wings, but it's not something I normally say. We fly the falcons in the morning. and then we fly the Harrisawks in the afternoon. And that's kind of always how we did falconry around here. And the Harrisawks were like, all of our friends, all my parents' friends, I should say, were all falconers themselves. I was like just surrounded by falconers my entire life. So when we would go out to go fly the birds, everybody would have a Harrisawk. So when it was time to go out, we would just do it for the fun of it, basically. Just go smash the rabbits and squirrels in whatever field or woods we felt like going to, just as like the end of the day kind of treat after having chased ducks around for pretty much most of the day. Now you guys discussed like around here, where I live and where Casey just moved to, we're only about 15, 20 minutes away from each other. We live really close to this just very, very unique little spot, but it's 26 square miles of completely flat farmland, basically. It was a former lake. It's a spring-fed lake that got filled in by the glaciers. They ditched it out about 100 years ago to make it farmland, but they found like the first mastodon around here and there and shit like that. Because it's spring-fed, there's a bunch of ditches and ponds around there that basically never freeze throughout the wintertime. We would go basically from different spots around that area as we kick, one guy would fly, we'd kick up those ducks, they'd head to the next pond, we'd go to that pond, fly the next bird, go to the next pond. That was just how we did falconry all the time.
That is so cool, man. That's like, like nowadays, I'm relatively antisocial, and that's not necessarily by choice. I just like don't like have people that want to go like all the time. And also I'm always in a rush, right? I have a wife, I have kids. Like I don't have time to like just be hanging out like the good old days. But that just sounds like as a young guy, like, or as a kid, like you're describing as a kid, like that, you probably look forward to that every week, like getting your boots on, going with your dad, and maybe your mom would go. With your sister, you have a sister too, right? Would she ever go with you guys?
Nah, my mom is a master falconer as well. But she kind of stopped doing it when my sister showed up, basically, because my sister was just not into it from almost the beginning. She hated being outside in the cold, basically. Yeah, she would come out. We did. I mean, don't get me wrong. My sister was around for a lot of it. But yeah, I don't even remember thinking of it as being like a choice sort of thing. It was just that's what we did. That's what I did.
That's like get in the truck.
I mean, I think he would ask me, but like I don't remember it being like too much of like I don't feel like going. I don't ever remember that. It was so much fun just because like it wasn't just hanging out with my dad. It was hanging out with like sometimes 2 other falconers, sometimes like 5 or 6 other falconers. So it was always just like a good laugh as well,
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, I was just very, very lucky growing up the way I did, as far as learning falconry and stuff like that. I mean, there's a picture of me as like a 6-month-old at Steve Baptiste's house, who was, I believe, the first guy to actually artificially inseminate a falcon. And I'm surrounded by all the falcons in his aviary, begging like my little 6-month baby for food.
That's cool.
It's just always been what we did around here. I mean, kind of explaining where my falconry comes from, I'd have to just talk about what my dad kind of did and everything like that, because it wasn't even a choice around here.
So there wasn't really. So for you, was there like a moment, like, because we always talk about like the moment that it hit you, and I'm going to do this. I want to do this. So for you, was it kind of like you don't remember having that thought necessarily? You were just like it was part of your daily life, kind of like just.
No, so I helped my dad train a bird Harrisawk when I was 7. He like brought me out, and like had me, like do the recalls back and forth between them, and then we'd use the lure, and like he had me out there for all of it. But my interest like wasn't super high, I would say.
Okay.
But I had a cousin that was 4 years older than me, and he was like my big brother. And he got into it. And as soon as he got into it, my dad turned everything we did into a competition. And
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, no, that was the best thing he could have ever fucking did. Because me being the younger one, I just always wanted to beat my older brother, basically. So we like everything we did when it came to falconry, he just tried to incentivize us through competition, and it worked really well. Because it like we were both like my cousin lived about 1.5 miles down the road. And he had his bird, and he lived in like the village of our town, and I'm out in like the outskirts sort of thing. So he had his bird downtown, and he was like able to go after all the squirrels in his neighbor's backyard, stuff like that. So and I had my grandfather's farm is right across the street. So that's where I would go fly, and we had tons of rabbits and squirrels out there. So like it was a competition basically, who's catching the most out there. And then we'd be flying them together. We had 2 hair socks. One of them's still alive, actually.
Wow. How old is that bird?
She's born in 96. So I was at 20.
Wow. Jeez.
She's down in Washington, D.C. doing education programs.
She's older than Harrison.
Yeah, he's older than a lot of our listeners. So all right. So talk me through this. So your dad made it a competition. So is it like if your cousin / older brother would like do better than you, your dad would be like, Tom, why don't you go get us some drinks from the refrigerator?
No.
And you're like, come on, man.
Like he would always normally show my cousin things first, which would always like kind of drive me crazy, because it's the competitiveness sort of thing. But no, he was smart. He used money. He's like, whoever wins this competition gets $5-10 or whatever it was, and we were like, shit, I'd fucking love $5-10.
That's cool.
It was the best thing he could have ever done, because I don't think I would have like gotten it was just a round for us. I have a lot of like friends that are, my dad's friends that they have kids, and they were around it as well. Not to the extent that, we were around here. Yeah. But they were, on the weekends, when they would come down and go flying birds, they were there with me and stuff like that. And we'd be hanging out and, getting into trouble out in the woods and, all sorts of stuff. Almost all of them don't continue to do falconry. They're all mostly in like environmental fields,
Okay.
Which is pretty cool. But no, none of them like kind of kept up with it, just because kind of time commitment. I think they went off and found their own kind of like hobbies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got out of it for a while too. I didn't fly birds for many years. And then when I moved back to the area, I kind of started getting back into it. And then we had an abatement job. It wasn't actually more actually working with the birds again. It was just like, oh shit, I can make some money out of this. And then once I like kind of put that back together, I started working with more birds, and then the love kind of just grew back into me again.
You were thinking of that $5 that your cousin got back in the day, and you go, I could get more than that now. I could make some good money doing this.
Yeah, much more.
I mean, speaking of money, like we don't have to get too deep into it, but I've been to your house many times, and you were kind enough to show me the room that has all the incubators. And I remember, I'm not the quickest guy with math, but I just remember being in that room exactly with all those incubators.
I see a lot of Brinzy back there.
Oh, the amount of equipment in that room could probably buy my house. And I just remember I was like, oh, so what's that egg? And you're like, oh, that's a Eurasian eagle owl. What's that egg? Oh, that's a gyrfalcon. What's that egg? Oh, that's a, and I'm just like, so how much do you charge for this, bro? How much? And I'm like, dude, there's like friggin' $100,000 sitting in that little incubator right there. Holy crap. And like, that was only like the first clutch. You know what I mean? And I'm like, geez, I got to get me some birds and some incubators. Damn.
How you haven't started trying to breed goshawks, so you're not spending thousands of dollars on them each year, I have no idea. You keep killing them too fast.
I know. I gotta take it easy.
He needs to up his husbandry game.
Yeah.
Basically, Tom, Casey wants to know, he wants to see a bank statement. Yeah. He's curious how much.
I was just about to say, as Aaron's probably learning, you don't count your chickens before they hatch. Because what's in my incubator is not what ends up on the finished floor.
I would imagine. Yeah, I bred some chickens this year. I had like probably 50 eggs and like 30 of them in the incubator, and I have 4 chickens outside. I'm dead serious.
Yeah. Let other people breed raptors.
Maybe you should let us be.
Yeah, you breed them. I'll fly them. That's fine with me. No, but you have a really unique life. You have a super special, in my opinion, you have something that's very special that a lot of people, and even like, and I'm sure you've seen it, Tom, because you probably get people all the time that have some money to begin with, right? And they're like, they start thinking they can make money doing it too. And they probably pick your brain and try to get into it. And like, it's, yeah, like you said, I was talking to a goshawk breeder this year, and he had like over 20 something goshawk eggs in the incubator. And then they're all, half of them are infertile. And then I don't know what he ended up with at the end, but I was like, half are infertile. Oh my God. Like, it's just like, you can't, like, literally like what you said, you can't count your chickens before they hatch. But you have a super interesting life because you are able to wake up in the morning. And I got to get in my truck. I got to put my boots on. I got to go put my tape measure. I got to get all my stuff in my truck. I got to go crawl around in people's houses and fix pipes. And you just can walk outside and chuck a quail in this one and go over here and inseminate that one. And not saying you have an easy job, because I know it's not easy. It's like a 24/7 thing. Believe me, I know. Tom, how many birds do you have? What's the most amount of birds that you've had at your house at one time?
Probably about 140.
Jeez.
God almighty.
And is that including offspring or no?
No, that was probably when we were at our max.
With no offspring?
No offspring. When we had,
just the documentation on that alone is a full-time job.
Thankfully, I deal with a lot of exotics on that for that exact reason. But
yeah.
Here in New York, we don't have to do any paperwork with exotics. I know other states are different, but here in New York, I have a piece of paper signed by the person heading our special licensing saying, I do not care about the exotic birds that you have.
Nice.
Well, people forget they're like parrots, as far as the government's concerned for the most part.
Yep.
A Eurasian eagle owl is like a macaw as far as the government is concerned, which is great.
You can't own parrots that come from South Florida or South California or South Texas, but you can have parrots that come from Africa, South America, and Australia.
Right. Yeah. Eagle owls are, they're the same thing until you get a big Instagram following, and then they come and kick your door in and raid your whole house and take your owl from you.
Did that happen?
Oh yeah, that happened. And they California.
But California probably classifies that as like a dangerous wildlife or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they were just trying to get her on whatever they could get her on, and they really didn't have anything on her, and that was like the reason that they used to like get into the house. And yeah, it was bad. And we're gonna have this person on maybe in the future, possibly, to talk about that situation.
I'd be curious if it was just a Eurasian eagle owl.
I think it was.
Okay.
At least that's what I was told. At least I'll just clarify. That's what I was told.
Yeah. And was it feds or just the state of California?
I think it was the state. I think
they're pretty wild about things. So.
Yeah. And each state is different, which is interesting because moving to New York, now I have to do like an annual report. And I've never had to do that. Like in Jersey, we never had to do that. Just kind of like buy your hunting license and go hunting and put your bird up for the molt, and that's it.
I don't understand why we have to report how many squirrels and rabbits we caught. And also not like they actually have a category for non-game hunted. So like basically asking how many fucking chipmunks you caught. I don't know.
And then like deciding like what, so what if you say, oh, like my Merlin caught, a mourning dove at, like, what are they going to come raid your house? Like, you got like, you know what I mean? Like, what are they asking that for? Like, just, I guess, for documentation.
I mean, I think technically the way that they read that is that, it's supposed to be let lay, even if it's in a hunting season. And then you're supposed to report to your like local whatever to say that, hey, my bird accidentally took this, whatever. But why? They don't have the time to deal with that. So why even try and fucking bother them with it?
I know. So let's get into this, man. Let's get into
Can I curse on this? I'm sorry.
Yeah, dude. Fuck yeah, bro.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
I do education programs and I'm pretty good about it, but sometimes I just fly.
Yeah, like a bunch of kids that are like a fucking Harris hog. They eat fucking squirrels.
Normally with kids I'm pretty good, but sometimes it just falls out of my mouth.
Yeah. So you breed all different kinds of birds. You have a lot of experience with different kinds of birds. You grew up watching.
Before we move on from the breeding, I'm curious what all What all do you keep these days?
Good question.
So I've got both an Adam and Peels peregrines. The Peels finally bred this year. Didn't have as much success as I would have liked with those. Hopefully next year. You were talking about breeding, and I think
I got a question. I'm sorry to stop you there.
Yeah.
I've always been curious, why Peels over an Adams or vice versa?
Size. Or the
bigger, meaner.
People say they're meaner.
And
you're saying Peels are bigger and meaner?
Peels are bigger and meaner. They're definitely bigger. As far as meaner, I don't know. They're different.
They say an Adams is like a good entry level falcon, right? Pearsall and Adams.
Yeah, you're gonna have fun with it. That's for sure. Like
they're a little high strung, from what I hear.
Even if you're just serving pigeons, you'll have a good time fucking watching it just smash these things out of the ground, or out of the air. So
yeah,
it's an easy bird to kind of get started with. Learn how to lure fly, because that's doing that well. And I was taught that that was an extremely important part of the process. So. That took me a while to be able to learn how to get it down and, my movements right and timing the bird right and stuff like that. Sorry, what we were talking about?
We were asking what
all you're breeding.
What you're breeding.
What am I breeding? Yeah. Sakers, Lanners, a pair of Jers that haven't started laying yet. And then I've got some imprinted females. The imprinted females, I made 3 pure this year.
Nice. What color?
They all came out silver.
Beautiful.
And then I'm trying to think that falcons. And then hybrids. I like Jersakers a lot. Doesn't seem like as many people like them anymore.
Why is that?
Why do other people like them? I have no fucking idea.
Well, you were telling me because it just makes sense. You're getting two different. You're getting the size, and then you're getting the hardiness, right? With when you put the Saker into the Jer.
Yeah, generally health speaking wise, they're hardier as far as dealing with Asper and things like that. Jers and Sakers I found are very susceptible to West Nile regardless, so crossing them doesn't seem to really make too much of a difference. But Asper definitely seems to help a little bit. This might be kind of controversial to some people, but we
love it.
It's the name of our show.
It's my dad's opinion, and I agree with him that Sakers are just Central Asian gerfalcons.
I don't think that's that far off. They're very similar from what I've heard, and I've heard other people say that too. So I don't know that you're that far off on that one.
Yeah, there's certain differences about them, especially how early they'll breed compared to gerfalcons. Some gerfalcons fucking take forever, but
as far as getting mature to breed?
Yeah,
gerfalcon?
Saker falcons, I've had them breed after just 2 years old, basically right after their first year. And then same with Lanner falcons. Peregrines can be a little bit longer. 3 to 4 years, sometimes longer than that if they're real stubborn. But gerfalcons, man, I swear to God, 5, 6, 7 years.
Jeez, quite the investment.
Harris hawks take a while too, don't they? Mature, the females.
Yeah, it depends. I'd say with Harris hawks, they're such a crapshoot. They're the horniest birds on the planet.
Maybe I do want one.
I was gonna say, you're gonna sell Casey on them now.
They're just if you put my experience, if I have multiple males in with a female, she'll copulate with all of them.
Oh my God.
One male will copulate with multiple female. They're so gregarious.
Yeah, my kind of girl.
And it really does depend on the each female sort of thing, what her kind of preference is. But they pretty much even up north where I am here in New York. They pretty much breed year round. They kind of take I would say a little bit of a break in the middle of the winter, but I have 7 babies out in the aviaries right now, and they're all just downies basically.
Oh wow.
So, and they'll probably lay another clutch, at least some of the pairs later on in the season. Even if like I've left, the babies will be in there till fucking 16 weeks. We used to never do 16 weeks, but now 16 weeks has to be the standard. So
why is that?
because
Maturity.
Now, Jen Colson wrote it in her book, so everybody.
Everyone that's calling, you're like, what's up? When are you pulling them out of the chamber? Because if it's not 16 weeks, I don't want it.
Basically,
like they know.
Yeah,
but I have my doubts that they keep them in the chamber for 16 weeks.
It's a fucking pain in the ass. It is no joke, a pain in the ass. So. Yeah, I mean, we used to do 12 or 14, depending on when people came to pick them up or whatever, and I understand the reasoning is that it, allows them to learn more how to like kind of talk Harris Hawk, basically. So they're better at
they're better at screaming.
Supposedly that's one of the reasons not like to wait till 16 weeks. But, I've yet to figure out how to stop a Harris Hawk from fucking making noise.
You let them live for about 5 years. Whenever even if I just walk out with my bucket of food to go feed, even the quietest bird that's 12 years old, one of my Harris Hawks that I fly for the programs, he still fucking makes noises when he sees the food,
But I don't think that's. I think that it's your setup because I've seen, as we've mentioned, Paul and Phil, Aaliyah, the guys that sponsored me, they flew a lot of passages and a lot of imprints. And I would go to their house like in the summertime and I would walk in the yard and I would hear two birds, from the two chambers screaming. And I'm like, isn't there a passage in that chamber? So the passage starts screaming like an imprint because it's next door to an imprint. So I don't know that it's anything that you're doing. It's just if you have a few birds that scream, the other ones are going to be like, oh, someone's got food. I'm going to scream too. I want food.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? I don't think that really has my personal opinion. I think it's just they're feeding off each other and they want food and they know that that's the noise to make.
I mean, like I've told you guys, I don't have a lot of experience with goshawks. It's limited. With Harris Hawks, absolutely. If you put a Harris Hawk next to one that screams, I guarantee that one's going to start screaming as well. So yeah, if you're looking to try and avoid it, there's lots of things you can try and do to do like little things that you can do. But if you really hate the sound of them, either don't fly them or get earplugs.
My wild ones do not scream.
No, I wouldn't expect them to.
Which is interesting.
Yeah,
it's like something happens in captivity, even if you keep them with the parents for 16 weeks. Who knows what it is?
I mean,
Maybe all the loud ones get killed by eagles and great horned owls.
Nah, it's just we don't beat the shit out of them the way the parents do to get them in the line.
That's what we need to do.
Yeah, that's what we need to do. We got to start giving some beatings. You hear that, everybody?
I mean, it's like what the red-tailed parents do when they drive the babies out, but it's like they don't drive the babies out. They just get them to shut the hell up so that they start focusing on hunting.
Right.
All right. So, falcons, pair of buteos. Do you breed any buteos?
No. I had a ferruginous. She's with my vet, who's also a falconer, and she's just working with her right now. I was trying to hybridize, but whenever I tried to strip the male Harris Hawks, they weren't giving me really much of anything, and I didn't feel like dealing with like an actual imprint goddamn Harris Hawk. So I gave up on it and just allowed my vet to work with her.
Well, that's because they were in there with that female Harris Hawk. She had them all emptied out.
I mean, you could be right. I literally tried every male Harris Hawk.
Because we all know how horny they are.
Yeah, they're all drained out. They're all used up.
And so a big part of what you do is owls as well, right?
Yeah, we got to get into the owls. And there's a whole bunch. We got to get into the other stuff you have too that you're not even reading. That just is for the show because you got some really cool stuff. But yeah, keep going. Let's go. Talk about the owls. I want to hear more about your owls.
Owls. So I have. We've been breeding Eurasian eagle owls. We were one of the first people to import new genetics into the country. Jesus Christ, almost 30 years ago now. And we've been breeding them for years. And then spectacled owls, Ural owls. I still have some bubuk owls, but I didn't produce any of those this year.
And those are Australian, correct?
Those are, yeah.
How did those get here?
Mima.
Hmm.
When she came over for a very brief
So they must have had them in the UK for a long time.
Yeah, I think
Australia doesn't let anything leave.
Yeah, since the 50s, they outlawed all exports basically.
Isn't that crazy that the bearded dragon is the most popular reptile as a pet, and you couldn't even get one from Australia if you wanted to? Yeah, somebody smuggled them out, and they're now like the most popular pet on the face of the earth as a dragon. Like my wife had one, for goodness sake. You know what I mean?
Most of the cockatoos and stuff like that come from Australia were actually just brought into the country before that restriction and have just been bred in captivity for years and years. There has been some that were brought in probably illegally, but
Australia is a really interesting place, and I am working on a guest currently at the moment, and this guy has a very unique nighttime activity that he does, and I love what he does at night. It's very interesting. A lot of things you could do at night that I'd be down.
It's the kind of thing that Harris Hawks like to do.
Yeah, but it's not that. I mean, this guy just kills feral cats indiscriminitely all night long.
Way to give it up. You're being coy at first, and you're like, screw it, I can't hold it back. He kills cats. I love it.
I was gonna keep building it up. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy over there because they're very strict on certain things, but with the feral cats, they're just like, they do not care. They don't care about the hate, the crazy cat ladies, nothing. They're just kill them all, and everybody just kills them all. They don't care. It's
They're
amazing.
very loose about what you can keep too. You can have virtually any native Australian animal, but you can't have exotics.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think you can do falconry there either, though.
No, it's illegal, right? Yeah, yep. I heard that. That I know. But go on.
It's too bad too, because they have those macropus peregrine falcons that are big, basically giant feet is what the Latin name is. So I'd love to get my hands on those guys. I think they do migrate up into like Japan, I think, so people have gotten it. But it would be nice to see what those things are like. Plus they have those gray goshawks as well.
Mm-hmm.
Which
was that chanting goshawk?
No, those are in Africa. The gray goshawks are actually the only pure white bird in the world.
Oh, yeah. Those are the white ones with red eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are insane looking. Those are so cool.
Why do I not know about this? What is?
Because you can't get one.
Not yet. Not till we go. Until we go on a trip. A little vacation.
Yeah, it's just the uniqueness of Australia and New Zealand's wildlife. They recognized it very early on, and they just stopped all imports and exports. And the imports that they brought in, like, just decimated everything. Like, they brought in, rats showed up on the ships and fucking screwed up everything in New Zealand. So then they released the little weasel thing to try and take care of the rats, and now those things are everywhere now too. So
and then the cats to take care of the weasels, and now they're everywhere.
Yeah,
and forget cane toads.
Oh yeah, it's huge.
And then in Australia, they have a really bad time with foxes. I know that. So, but they also have like camels. I remember reading something where like close to like 1 million camels or something like that, like over like a town in the middle of Australia.
Oh wow! Aaron's bringing up pictures of white goshawks that are not albinous. Wow, that's insane. Wow, that's incredible. Imagine you cross that with like a North American or something. Oh my gosh. Look at that thing. That's incredible. For listeners, if you're listening, just look up, what'd you type in there? Gray goshawk from Australia. They're very cool.
It looks like
looking.
there's different color morphs of them. So there's some gray ones.
Yep.
But that's got to be the most beautiful bird of prey I've ever seen.
Like I said, it's the only one that absolutely has no markings on it whatsoever.
It's just pure white. It looks like one of those, like those red tails you see every couple of years show up online that are just pure white.
I think
looks like.
Yeah. I feel like some
look
of them
at
have
that one.
markings, unless they're like. I mean, these are almost albino, like you said. They have like almost pink eyes.
My friend Bill Volker would go insane for these, wouldn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Who's Bill Volker? Even though I already know.
Aaron, I'll let you.
He's the guy who runs the Comanche eagle breeding project, and he's got a thing. The Comanches have a reverence for white birds.
Very cool. I think maybe I'm Comanche then.
They're the only facility in the country that can breed eagles.
That's because they're a sovereign. That's because they're a sovereign nation.
I don't know exactly how their laws work, but they can.
So yeah, we're still working through the many birds that you breed, but let's talk about that.
It's a perfect segue.
Perfect segue. I am a firm believer that it makes zero sense for us not to be able to breed golden eagles in captivity in America. I mean, it's counterproductive to the Eagle Protection Act, in my opinion. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. You cannot give me a good reason why you can't breed golden eagles in America.
The only thing I'll say that is beneficial to it is because of these stupid laws with eagles. And I understand, 50, 60, 70 years ago, there were hardly any eagles left. So I understand why they were originally written, the estimate, I think when they signed the Endangered Species Act, was there were only 400 nesting pairs of bald eagles left in the lower 48 states.
Jeez.
So they were almost nothing. So I understand why they signed these laws in, but why we still have them and things like, here in New York, we have a law for peregrines that if you guys trap a peregrine in your state and decide I want to transfer it to Tom 3-4 years later so he can breed it with one of his birds, I cannot accept it because I'm not allowed to have any wild peregrines.
It's insane.
I can get captive bred ones, but I cannot take a wild peregrine.
Which is bizarre because Jersey, like a half an hour away from you, is the line to Jersey, and you can have passage peregrines in Jersey. It's just so bizarre. What's the reasoning behind that? Can we talk about that for a quick second? Because I kind of talked about it and I didn't know the details. And I think, I don't know if you know more about it. Why is it that New York can't get passage peregrine take? Why is that?
They signed a law back in the late 60s just to protect them because, as most people know, Peregrine Fund was started here in New York. And it was the guys here in New York that were kind of sounding the alarm kind of most vociferously, especially through kind of government channels and stuff like that. So New York State was kind of proactive in their, we're going to kind of do things before the feds do anything. So they signed a law prohibiting certain aspects to try and protect them. And it's still on our books today.
Has there been anybody trying to change that or?
Yeah, we tried multiple times. It's just basically, they've tried to get us. This is going into the weeds, but they tried to get somebody to do it, and every time I think normally it's just they attach other shit to the bill, and it just crashes when it makes its way through the state assembly and stuff like that. So it's just never gotten the support. And most animal rights organizations, when they say, they can make a very, very strong and loud argument, louder than us falconers, basically. So, and we're the only ones that are just desperate to get this law taken off. Basically,
the optics are horrible if you're trying to get rid of it. Imagine being the politician who's they want to take peregrine falcons off of, they want to take away protections from peregrine falcons.
Yes,
to your average person, that just sounds horrible. The average person doesn't realize that they're not endangered.
Unfortunately, They are here in New York. They are listed as an endangered species.
Not federally endangered.
No, they're not. But I have to have an extra license to be able to have them because of their endangered nature, and they're endangered because of that law.
And never mind that it's in North Carolina, we're not allowed to trap falcons west of a certain point.
Okay.
And reason being is because we have nesting falcons in there's some in the big cities in Greensboro and Charlotte, but then we have them in the mountains as well. So the law is that we're not allowed to trap any of those native birds. We're only allowed to trap migrating anatoms, Arctic or tundra
not anatoms.
birds.
Yeah, tundra. Well, for Jersey, it's tundra. Jersey, it's only tundras. You can't trap the anatoms. And after you trap first of all, you get your permit. It's by lottery. There's 5 per year. Most states have 5. And then after you get the bird, then you're kind of on your toes. And usually when you trap them, you can tell that they're a tundra bird because they're real. correct me if I'm wrong, but they're real
Nobody's
blonde.
gonna know.
Well, they're
Nobody's
real blonde. Well, we got a lot of people listening that probably have more experience with long wings than I do, but I was told that they're very blonde and they look a specific way, and especially the tierces are they're smaller, so you can kind of tell. But you got to take like all these crazy photos, like all these angles, like it's all in the permit, and it's like if you fail to do this, or you send the wrong photos, or you do not send the photos, you're subject to all this and that, title this, title that. Like they're going to throw you in jail if you send them the wrong photos, and then you're kind of waiting for your biologist to get back to you and be like, yep, you're good to go. Keep it. After you spent 3 weeks on the beach, taking off from work, trying to trap one bird, and then you finally get it. And then you're kind of waiting to hear if you're allowed to even keep it.
It's east of a certain line. North Carolina doesn't care. They're just making the assumption that's a tundra bird that's migrating through.
Yeah.
We don't have to take pictures. That's crazy.
No, yeah, I've never heard of that. My friend who lives in Maryland, I don't want to get him in trouble, but he can take Adams.
He can?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know, because Jersey, you cannot. You're not allowed to take an Atom. Can't touch him.
Well, I'm kind of ignorant about falcons. That's like a weak point in my falconry is long wings.
Same here.
Adams, what? So I thought this is going to sound really stupid because I'm sure what the answer is at this point is tundra birds are not anatoms. I thought they were anatoms.
Oh my God, dude. Even I know that.
So we have this answer changes all the time. Exactly how many subspecies of peregrines there are, man, it's changed dozens of times in my lifetime. Here in the United States, we had the eastern anatom, the western anatom, the peels. They probably say the Aleutians or kind of Queen Charlotte Islands might be its own separate subspecies, and then the tundra birds. So the tundra birds are up where the gerfalcons are. They just can't compete with them for size, so that's why they're smaller.
Yeah, I'm looking at the range map now. It's tundrius, I guess.
Yep.
Falco peregrinus tundrius.
Yep.
I didn't even realize that. Although, to be fair, I don't really give a fuck.
That's fair.
Stupid. Come on. So stupid.
But we no longer really have the eastern atom anymore. That genetics died out about 60 years ago.
Right. They're all kind of like, I don't know if it was you was telling me or somebody else was telling me that they're all kind of like at this point from the Peregrine Fund and just trying to get them back in the landscape. They're all kind of like mutts at this point.
Mutts, yeah.
Yeah. It's just, we call it just the anatom. Basically, like the 48 states has the anatom peregrine. Up into Canada has the tundris, and then over on like the west coast of Canada has the peels.
I didn't realize how small the range was on peels.
Oh yeah, it's basically just the coastline.
Very cool. That's super interesting. Yeah, they're cool. I dealt with the peels once at my friend Eric's house. He got it because he does a lot of abatement, and it was just like the meanest, nastiest sucker that I've ever dealt with. And it was just like a pit bull holding on to the glove, hissing at, trying to bite me. I mean, obviously he got it like a week before that. So, I mean, it might change, but he was telling me that from getting, he's flown a bunch of them, that they're all kind of like a little bit like that, like a little bit more difficult to deal with and a little bit more like, like intense.
I've dealt with so many fucking cunty falcons that I don't even really pay attention to it anymore.
Yeah.
How many times have you been bitten by a falcon?
Oh my God, they're so annoying. Like I had a Jura prairie that like no matter how much, like even if I just gave her a fucking like chick leg, she would eat half of it, and then like as I wasn't paying attention, just reach over and just nail me right in the bicep every single fucking time. And like, my dad would come around the corner and I'd be fucking trying to shake this fucking thing off my arm. Yeah. Your dad's like, no $5 for you this week. He's like, yeah, it's better you than me.
Gives it to your cousin.
Yeah, no, they're like,
so the personality varies dramatically from bird to bird. I mean, and we all know that, I would imagine,
Yeah, they're all different. I'd say species, you're generally going to kind of have their own kind of characteristics, and then each individual bird is its own special thing. the falcons, like, as much as like I was just complaining about how much they can be a pain in the asses, like I just love that bitchy attitude of them. Like, because once you like roll it into an actual like hunting bird and proper flying bird, like the satisfaction is almost like second to none.
If you like bitchy birds, I want to introduce you to what I'm holding right now.
Yeah, I having not grown up with goshawks, like for people, people hear falcons screaming and it's like nails on a chalkboard for them. People hear harishawks, it's like nails on a chalkboard for them. I grew up with that stuff. It does not bother me. If I hear a fucking imprint goshawk, it sends a shiver up my spine. Like it drives me insane.
I definitely think that the goshawk scream is much more like piercing to your eardrums than like a harishawk.
Oh my God.
Goes right through your brain. Your head rattles when it's like
awful.
It's really, it is intense. But I've noticed that sometimes each bird has a different noise, like a different, like their vocal cords. Like, because I had this third hand albitus, and that bird, like, it almost had like the guttural voice of like a peregrine, like a peregrine. They make that like that deep, when it would scream, it kind of sounded like that. But then like the North American is just like this high pitched like squeal in your eardrum. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it's like, you know what I mean? Kind of like what you're saying. But on that same note of falcons, you have some pretty cool falcons that you use for your shows. And I don't even know what you have at this current time, but I just remember you, when I was at your house like a year or two ago, you just brought in some crazy falcon that like only lives in the treetops and like never touches the ground in his life.
The Tita falcon.
Yeah, that thing is cool.
Yeah, she's awesome. I got the opportunity to pick her up, and I don't think I was ever going to get another opportunity to just work with these guys, so I had to do it. Unfortunately, here on the East Coast, I flew a couple Aplomados, and they're fucking Cooper's hawk food. So I really don't even try and fly this bird that much. I feel terrible saying that, but she's so awesome, and there's not too many of them left in the wild. And if anybody listening to this has a male, please reach out to me. I will send you her, or you can send.
Can you repeat what it's called?
Taita, Tita falcon.
Taita.
Yeah.
And they live in the treetops in like South America, you were telling me, or?
Nah, they're named after the Taita Hills in Kenya.
I was off a little there.
And
wrong continent, dumbass.
They're found in certain pockets across Africa, but yeah, I mean, in certain parts of the world, there's canopy falcons that like we kind of refer to them as, because they basically hunt the big unfragmented forests that are there. But if they strike something and it falls below the canopy, it's gone. They don't go after it or anything like that, because if they drop down and below there, now they're in hawk and owl territory. And
freaking baboon's gonna grab them on the way down and rip their head off.
It could be anything, but they're just not built for it. So they take most things up on the wing, above the canopy. Supposedly, a guy by the name of Bob Berry brought in a bunch of, I think it was orange-breasted falcons, and he ended up having to buy a cherry picker because every time he let his birds go, he'd like have to wait till nighttime and then take the cherry picker up into the trees to go pluck them out of the trees to get them back down on the ground.
Right, and everybody's listening, and they're like, "Oh, he sucks. I would get that bird coming down in 3 minutes." But you were telling me that genetically they just do not want to go on the ground at all, ever, for any reason.
Getting them to not carry is almost impossible.
Yeah, it
is genetically in their blood to not go anywhere near the ground.
So not suited for falconry.
They're brought in. I think there's the Peregrine Fund that was part of a project to breed them, and that's how they ended up here. And
beautiful birds.
Oh, there's and she's such a sweetheart. She's not an imprint. She was raised by her parents, and she's probably one of the sweetest birds I've ever worked with. She's so well mannered and everything like that. She's just awesome.
And then you have something cool that my wife always gets a kick at whenever we go over to the house. You got those little pygmy falcons, which, just so the audience knows, it's Tom. Is it half the size of a kestrel or a third the size of a kestrel? I mean, it's the smallest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, they weigh about 48 grams.
48 grams. It's like the size of a sparrow, but it's a falcon. It's insane.
It's like
I mean,
a
a little
quail
big.
breast right there.
What kind of quail? What kind of quail are you buying?
Jumbo Copernic quail? Isn't that what a breast is?
No, I don't think a breast. I think a breast on a. No, the breast on a quail. A breast on a quail is like 200 grams, bro. What are you talking about?
Really?
You buying those
So
like
even smaller than that? Yeah, okay.
You're buying the discount
Well,
quail.
I'm getting them from Rodent Pro.
Yeah.
By the way, you ever get order quail from Rodent Pro, you will be disappointed. Stick with mice.
And you'll go fucking broke doing it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You can't. Yeah, I used to with the snakes. The only reason why I kept so many snakes was because of our friend Tom Brian with his connection to that testing facility.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, you get like
those were the good old days.
The good old days when you get a dump truck load of mice for like $500 or something, or like whatever it was. It was insane. I'd go there, he'd load the whole back of my Subaru, the whole trunk of my Subaru with boxes of frozen frozen mice, rats. There'd be like a guinea pig every now and then.
Pigs, hamsters.
And he'd be like, yeah, just give me $100. And I would give him $100 and I would just like pack out my chest freezer to the top with rodents, fresh frozen rodents. It was crazy.
Yeah, those were the good old days. Unfortunately, Rodent Pro fucked that all up for us as well. Speaking of,
they sold it, right? They sold it, and then somebody else bought it.
No, it's still the same company that's been doing the rodent production. It's just Rodent Pro went to them and it was just like, we will buy all of your excess. No matter what you have, we will buy it. And they just basically looked at the numbers and said that makes more sense to us than the tax write-offs they're getting from kind of donating them to nonprofits and stuff like that. So
greedy bastards.
They did that to a lab here as well.
Yep, that's their
same
move.
thing. They probably hit up every lab in the country.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's their move. It seems like.
Yeah, you can't buy them from Rodent Pro. It's like $30 for like a bag of mice plus like $80-$90 shipping, and it's like a bag of mice.
It's free shipping now on Rodent Pro.
Is it? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Rodent Pro's not. It's their price on mice is not that bad, but no fooling well they're probably quintupling their money every time you buy a mouse from them.
Do you buy a lot, Aaron?
No, I mean I breed mice and rats, so I don't buy many. But every now and then we'll have production gets low, so I end up buying a box of mice.
There's a place up here in New York that I've been getting them from, and they seem pretty reasonable, but I haven't compared them to Rodent Pro because I just assume Rodent Pro is more expensive.
They've gotten cheaper. I think they've gotten cheaper. And then when they have a flash this is going to turn into a Rodent Pro ad.
Our new sponsor, Rodent Pro.
Yeah. the company that ruined our free mice for us. Let's plug them on the podcast.
Yeah, they can fuck off.
Well, yeah, but with what you do, Tom, I would imagine that feeding all of those animals is literally a full-time job.
Well, I mean, not just a full-time. Well, it's a full-time job just to pay to feed all those goddamn animals.
Yeah,
I'm probably spending $40,000 to $45,000 a year on food.
Oh my god!
So, and then some of that's is some of the food I do get is free, so that's just what I'm having to pay for.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's definitely and it used to be so much easier as far as getting food. Like I still have my sources and stuff like that, but they've become further and further away, which means I gotta do more work to get the food and everything like that. So
yeah,
hasn't gotten easier, and it probably won't as time goes on.
You gotta do the old what the Coulsons do and just go on a hawking trip and bring a bunch of freezers with generators and fill it with wild game and then just cut it up and throw it in there.
Yeah, I mean, if I had the time to do that, Casey, I absolutely would.
I know. I don't see how. I don't really see. Having known you, and I don't know how you could pull that off with your schedule. Because not only are you doing breeding, right, and you're selling your birds, you're also doing a bunch of other stuff. You want to talk about the other stuff that you do? You do shows.
Nope.
Stop.
We still haven't got through the birds he breeds.
Oh, that's right. We were on owls, weren't we?
We're talking about what's right now. Let me just give you a kind of list of all the things we've ever had kind of pass through here. So we mentioned the we'll start small. African pygmy falcons, the Taita falcons have added Aplomado falcons, have had red-headed merlins or redneck falcons as they call them now. Prairies, lantern takers, jurors, peregrines. Trying to think, is there anything I'm missing with falcons? Merlins, kestrels. I think that's probably it. No, smorgasbord of hybrids, all different types. And then with owls, we've had tropical screech owls, boobook owls, dark-eyed spotted eagle owls, Pharaoh's eagle owls, or Pharaoh's owls, or Savigny eagle owls. They're all kind of the same. Ural owls, spectacled owls, Eurasian eagle owls, Siberian eagle owls, milky eagle owls, snowy owls, barn owls, the burrowing owls. Oh, Jesus Christ.
A lot of damn owls.
Yeah. The owls are the coolest part because they're so cool when you never see them. And then you go to Tom's and they're just like, I mean, my favorite owl at your house is when you pull in and you look and you just see this creature that's like the size of a bald eagle. Probably it looks bigger, and it's a Siberian eagle owl. I mean, that thing is. I mean, that is one of the biggest birds that I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it's so big.
What does it weigh?
Well, like a typical owl, it's all fluffed up most of the fucking time, so it looks a lot bigger than it is. But the big female I have is probably 9-10 pounds.
But it looks like 5.
Yeah, they're probably more. They must be more fluffed up though, because that's like a normal female eagle owl, right?
I mean, if anybody's producing a proper Eurasian eagle owl that's 9-10 pounds, I'd love to actually see that. I'm guessing they're probably closer to like 7-8.
It's definitely a bigger bird. I mean, when you're sitting there on the first.
The wing is probably 6 inches longer than at least than the biggest Eurasian eagle owl in this country.
The feet on it look like, as it's sitting on the perch, it looks like a grown man's hands, just with talent. It just looks huge. It just looks monstrous. Like, and you're right, it is probably fluffed up, and maybe that's why it's throwing me off. But it's like it's just, and it's not like. It's exactly what you would picture a Siberian eagle owl to look like. It's all like faded out and like cream colored, and like it's super cool looking. It's incredible. Supposedly
the lady in Europe, I don't want to say where, that I've gotten owls past. Shout out to her. She's awesome. She has a female that I think she said is 12.5 pounds. So yeah, they're seriously. I mean, when you see them even next to like a big female Eurasian eagle owl, you're like, Jesus Christ. Now, I mean, like, and it's I wouldn't say that they weigh a whole lot more. It's just the wing size, the wing length, the foot size, the head size. It's just all impressively bigger.
It's like like the thing's head is like a toddler's head. It's like huge.
Yeah. It's definitely huge. I can't even use them for my programs just because, if I knowing how to hold them, I can kind of limit a little bit. But if I put it on somebody else's hand for them to like see what it feels like to hold a Siberian eagle owl, it just smacks them in the fucking face all day long. Like they're with the wing. Their balance is so bad because they don't really land too much. I assume they don't land a whole lot in trees as much as like more southern birds. They're kind of like more like snowy owls sort of thing, and just the fact that they'll land on the ground a lot more.
Makes sense.
So they're just their balance is shit, and they just whack you in the face all the time. That's actually why I don't really like working with big eagles too much, just because I'm not the biggest guy, and I just get punched in the face by them all day long.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the eagles.
That's what Aaron's been just like biding his time this whole time, being patient. Because this is what he wants. He really wants to hear about the eagles.
Thank you. Thank you for laying it up for me. You keep some exotic eagles.
Yep.
And what do you currently keep? And we can include hawk eagles in that.
I was going to.
They're my favorite.
I was the first person to breed African hawk eagles in this country. Produced the first one in 2019. Fucking thing died about 4 days out of the egg, 5 days out of the egg. Anybody breeding birds, there's an issue called omphalitis that is basically like a bacterial infection in the yolk sac that as they ingest the yolk, they can get an infection. And that's what that bird had. So ever since then, I have antibiotics right next to my incubators right here to treat them as soon as they come out. If they act dumpy in any way within that first day, slamming them with every bit of treatment I possibly can, pretty much.
Can I ask how you would go about doing that? Like, are you putting it in their mouth and just getting them to swallow it? Like how?
So my protocol that me and my vet came up with, which at some point you guys should get her on this podcast too, because she's just a wealth.
Laura?
Yeah, Laura.
Yeah, she's great.
Just to talk medical things and stuff like that. She would be really awesome for people to hear. But she's awesome too because she's a falconer, so she knows birds' behavior. So giving her a bird for her to like treat, she knows how to read a bird and stuff like that. She's just fantastic.
Yeah.
Our protocol is we hit them with everything we got. So I hit them with Clavamox, Orbox, and Ceftioflor. For some reason, this year Ceftioflor is like difficult to come by. So I actually didn't have a lot of it this year or any of it this year, but I didn't really need it, which was nice. But Clavamox is given twice a day. Orbox is once a day. And then Ceftioflor is an intramuscular injection every 3 days.
And you're injecting these little chicks like right when they come out, like if you think they need it?
So if they come out of the egg, normally I'm not feeding, and everybody should do this. You don't want to feed the birds until about 12 to even 24 hours after they've come out of the egg. You wait for the first mute. So whenever that comes, and you sometimes you have to wait it out, even if you're being, a little bit worrisome or kind of sitting over the top of them. You just want to wait that out because if you start feeding them beforehand, you can start having issues. But you wait for that first mute and then you can feed them, just feed them a little bit, a few little pieces. And then that next feeding is the first kind of big one, basically. If the bird is not soliciting for food after that 12 to 24 hour waiting period, I'm already basically getting ready to administer antibiotics, or I've already started.
Got it.
It should be begging for food after that 12 to 24 hour period. So if it's not, I'm hitting it. And normally within about 24 hours, it's starting to perk up. And within 2 to 3 days, it's a healthy little chick again. And I continue the antibiotics for about 7-8 days. And then that's normally it.
Got it.
So that's how I lost that first African hawk eagle. I bred and actually kept alive the next one the following year. And eagles are pains in the asses as far as they only make. If you're lucky, you might get 2 eggs from them in a clutch. Normally it's just 1. So got that one. And then every year following that, the eggs were infertile. So I actually sent that pair out to Dave Canellis out in Las Vegas, who's part of the co-op that we're in. And just because she was breeding, she was laying her first egg earlier and earlier in the year. And she was starting to lay her first egg at the end of January, which it's minus, it's 10 degrees here at night at best sometimes. So I just feel like that was part of the issue is if she if just staying off the egg for just a limited amount of time or just not putting enough warmth on it wasn't allowing that egg to develop properly. So
makes sense.
She sat in her scrape. This was their first season this past year. She sat in her scrape, but I don't believe she laid an egg this year, which is what she did for me for almost 10 years before I finally fucking got that egg out of her.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
So I was telling Aaron this yesterday, but when I try and really change, if I get a female who's not laying eggs, I'll really change a lot of things up in the incubator. I'll move where the nest, if it's a falcon or hawks or eagles and stuff, I'll change where the nest ledge is. I'll use different nesting material. I'll either add more perches, change where the perches are, take perches out in case I want the birds to actually interact with each other, sort of thing.
Right.
To kind of force that interaction with each other. So yeah, I'll modify a lot of things, and I took the nest. I built this giant deep nest box for like one of those like Tractor Supply like big black plastic things. So there's like 2.5 feet of like nesting materials just buried into this thing. Lined the whole thing with fucking sticks around it, so made this big giant deep fucking nest, and then I stuck it all the way up into the like A-frame of the fucking barn that I've got. So I had like a 16-foot ladder, and I was fucking like up there at the top of it with this not too happy African hawk eagle. But that really seemed to make the difference for me.
And that's when you produce that. It's a male, right? That you have.
Yeah. Yep.
I love that bird.
Tanza. He's just because his parents both came from Tanzania. He's a really awesome bird. I'm hoping to eventually get semen off of him and do something silly with him. But
yeah.
And
what's that?
I don't know.
We'll edit this out, but what? Drink it? Shot glass? Drink it? That's pretty silly.
That would be pretty silly. No, I would literally try and put it in anything I possibly can. I remember a few years ago there was like a Harris Hawk Golden Eagle that got made. Who the fuck knows? You know, try anything.
That would be really that'd be interesting if you could, because I mean, obviously the eagles aren't very prolific. But you take the eagle semen and put it into something that lays, 4 eggs.
Yeah. Talk about making money.
I mean, it would be people like you guys that I would try to get them to just to see what you could do with them hunting wise.
Hey, I live 20 minutes down the street, bro.
That ferruginous hawk, you could.
No, leave the Peruvian hawk out of it. The African hawk eagle, just for the audience knows, it's a very. I've seen it fly. I've seen Tom's bird fly. And I see it all the time at his house. It has so just to describe it, it has the head. Unless Tom, you want to describe it better, because obviously
let's let Tom do that.
Go ahead. I just get excited because I love that bird. So cool.
I mean, he's an imprint, but he's not. He's like eagles are just more intelligent. That's the best way to put it. So like, it's just a different type of kind of behavior that they exhibit when they are imprinted like that. He's basically like a cross between I would say more like a goshawk and a red tail, basically.
Yeah, that's accurate.
He's big and he fucking slams into things. Actually, and I'd also say he's probably got like almost a little Harris hawk in him with just the long fucking legs, like
super long.
Yeah, I mean they're almost probably like, geez, I should put a tape measure on them, but they've got to be over a foot long. They're crazy how like. Yeah. So they're just kind of a cross between the three. They fly like a goshawk. They're all just wings and power and just beep, 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 as fast as they can. And then they fucking slam into things like a fucking red tail. I swear to God, this thing slammed into things a few times where I'm like, oh my God, split itself in half. Just the way it sounds and stuff like that. It just crashes into things.
Maybe get with Seth and put it in a goshawk.
Yeah.
I think that thing would figure out a way to take over the world and make us all slaves to it. That'd be insane. That would be insane because that bird is already lethal the way it is now. I mean, long tail, like the wings are a little bit longer than longer than a goshawk. The feet are ginormous. The head is ginormous like an eagle, but the body is like a Harris, like with the long legs and giant feet, long tail. I mean, and just like when you walk in and look at it, all the other birds are kind of like acting like normal birds, like either scared or looking for food. And then you just walk up to this bird and he just like pierces your soul. Like he's like he's asking what your name is, like with this, like just the eye, just the intelligence behind the eyes looking at the bird. It makes you it gives you goosebumps looking at the bird. It's crazy.
I've never had a bird look at me like I've had some eagles look at me, where like they almost like size me up and it's just like it's pretty much 50-50 between us. Like, I'm willing to see where this is going to go.
When I first met Titus, we went out and we hunted his African crowned eagle.
Mm-hmm.
And when we got back, he slapped her on my glove and put 3 or 4 jumbo rats on my glove. And she's just sitting there eating off the glove. And he doesn't know me at all. I'm like, I'm just assuming if I did something stupid, she would have lit me up. So he was just making the assumption that I knew what I was doing, and he was wrong. And
so I had a male. My dad has had 2 crowned eagles. He had a female back in the early 80s, I think. And then we had a male here about 10 years ago. And the power that they have is just completely unreal. But they are, in my experience, when you work with them and put the time in them and actually, like, I mean, the best way to get a good bird is just be consistent with them. And as long as, in my experience, when we did that with him, he was a gentleman as far as, like, he wouldn't do anything to go for you or anything like that. But when he put the squeeze on that fucking glove, good Lord, there's a few times where I almost like dropped to my knees and stuff like that.
Wow.
He would do the thing though, where he would stop eating. He would, or it was she. She was like a 8-pound bird, I think. She would stop eating and turn her head up and look you in the eyes and just stare at you for a second, and then go back to eating. And when she would look you in the eyes, you're like, my God, it's like,
yeah,
it's a strange experience. To Casey's point,
it really is. It's nuts. There's something different behind the eyes than any other bird that you've worked with. At least for me, it's like a regular falconer with red tails and stuff like that. Like this thing is just looking at you, like just try, like it's just crazy. Yeah, I don't know how else to say it, but it's almost like it's like trying to ask like what your name is or something. Like it's just like I don't know, you know what I mean? Like it's looking at you, and all the other birds are like just acting like birds, you know. And then this thing is just like staring at you. And then you walk up to it and it looks upside down at you, gives you a little look. And then, you know, it's just, and then it bounces back and forth on the perch, like super athletic, like a goshawk. So I think that bird, man, if you could put that bird into almost anything and hook a brother up over here.
I believe there's an imprint female in our co-op. So if we were able to make it work, I'll just try and inseminate her. But who knows? We'll see how it goes. He's only 4 years.
How long does the semen last for eagles? Is it different than goshawks? I know goshawks is like,
from what I understand, very
a couple hours.
Oh yeah, it's only a few hours.
Only a few hours. So you'd have to either
freeze it. Can you freeze bird semen?
Good question.
No, we refrigerate it. I've never frozen semen before. Normally it comes when I've gotten it from falconers. It's coming like on ice packs, but it's not like frozen.
Casey has some frozen in his freezer. He doesn't breed birds, but for some reason he's got it.
I got a whole bunch in there. Take your pick. You want to talk about some hybrids, bro? I'll hook you up.
There's for some reason there's a pig human hybrid walking around.
Animal human pig. Turning the frogs gay. So stupid. Oh God.
Teddy has she's got semen from one of her dogs that's been cryogenically frozen for decades, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's
saving it for the right bitch, or what's the plan?
Yeah, I think
I don't know.
Yeah. There's a dog. Okay, so just real quick, the dog that I have, the dog that is her grandfather is Turk, and Turk semen
that was Brian's dog.
Brian's dog Turk. Yeah, that dog, I said bird. That dog was like this, you know, whatever. Everybody really liked the dog. It was out of its mind, and they'd put it in all different bitches to try to like get different personalities out of that. And yeah, that's been frozen, that at least that I know of, for like 15, 18 years or something. It's been frozen for. But the dog that I bred Ginger to is a 11 and a half years old male that I bred Ginger to. So Franny, my little black and tan, is the genetic granddaughter of Turk, but Turk's been dead for like 18 years. So the son was like on his way out, and we just got it to happen. So the genetic is still there, but there's also his semen is frozen. I don't know if it's the same dog though.
11-and-a-half-year-old dachshund managed to get up on top and do his job.
Dude, I sat there for like 3 hours watching like a creep, and then I finally just left them and went to work and came back and then watched them, and then I never actually watched them tie. And then I told my buddy, because it was a contractual thing, and I told him, I said, I don't know, I have no idea. And then, dude, like the weeks started going by, and she started getting fatter, and I said, no way. And sure enough, he got her when I wasn't looking. The old guy, the old bastard.
Good for him. Good for him.
Yeah.
So African hawk eagles. What other eagles are you keeping?
Right now I've got a Benelli's eagle, female Benelli's eagle, and I've got a male black eagle who's got a busted wing. And that didn't happen here. He was hit in Africa, in South Africa. And he was sent to originally Canada as part of a breeding project. But I think his injury just meant he didn't balance very well when trying to copulate, and was never successful with that female. So when the pair ended up here in the United States, basically it has to stay in the co-op. So I took it, just use it for education programs and stuff like that.
Strip him.
You like
Aaron,
three
you come
people.
up and give me a hand with that. So he's actually very, very sweet. So let me tell you a story on this guy. So I think he got hit basically almost right out of the nest, or like not out of the nest, excuse me. Like basically at 2 years old, when he would have been like leaving the parents, essentially out hunting on his own finally and stuff like that. And he got whacked by a car. His whole shoulder and his wing is atrophied and shit. He can't even like stick it out all the way and stuff. So went up to Canada and finally ended up here. He was 12 years old when he ended up here, and he had never been like jesses had never been put on him. He'd never been on a glove before. He was just basically in an aviary getting food chucked at him his whole life. So I pulled him out of the fucking box and got him on this glove, and I had, a quote unquote eagle glove from a, reputable falconry sourcing place, equipment place. And this fucking thing grabbed onto that glove and drove his fucking talons right through that leather.
Oh my God.
And thankfully, like, the leather was able to like stop it from like widening, so he only basically got like the first, like, say like 3 to 4 millimeters into me. I was able to, like, after maybe about 15 minutes, this is before I even put the hood off of him yet. After about 15 minutes, I finally was able to get him to shift his fucking foot and not grab onto me as hard that he punctured through the glove. And I had a quail in my hand that he had basically, while he was squeezing me, it turned to fucking like ooze, essentially. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, things got to eat. And I fucking sat there. I took the fucking hood off. And that first time I took that hood off, it jumped off, baited on me immediately. Couldn't return to the glove because of the way his wing is. So I grabbed him and I picked him back up to put him on a glove. And when he clamped down on my hand, I swear to God, dude, he looked up and down. He's like, I could fucking take you.
Yeah. I mean, he probably could. That is a huge bird.
He is huge.
You asked me the one day to take him out because we were doing some work on your boiler, and you said, yeah, go take, we had a bunch of birds to move so I could do my job. And then you gave me the eagle glove, like all the way up to my elbow. And he's super sweet. He stepped right up. He had the hood on. But I mean, you're talking like you're talking about feet on an animal, the feet on the bird. Like, you're looking at a red tail and you're like, oh, that red tail's got nice feet. Like, this bird's feet are like 1 foot is like 4 red tail feet. Like, in terms of like volume, it's so big. And just holding onto the glove, when I finally walked across the yard and put him on his perch, like, my fingers were like going numb. Like, the tips of my pinky was going numb just from him holding on while I was walking. Like, just so big, huge.
I can't squeeze my left hand as well as I used to be able to before I started working with that asshole. Because he did like just squeezing onto the back of my hand. He like did like nerve damage.
I believe it.
Puncturing anything, but just like every day for probably about. So yeah. When let me just finish the story on him. So
sorry,
I took him out. Was obviously he didn't feed on the glove for the first time, and I put the hood back on. I think I sat there with him on the glove for about 45 minutes before I was just like about to like, my hand was about to fall off basically. And I put the hood back on him, and he clamped down on that one, but it wasn't too bad. And then when I went to go back him up onto the perch that I had for him and have him step off the glove onto the perch, he fucking clamped so hard onto my hand that I think I was stuck there for about 45 minutes before I could finally squeeze my hand out of the glove.
Oh my God.
And then I think he sat there on his like haunches, basically holding that glove for probably another 30 minutes before he finally relaxed.
Jeez.
And he didn't eat on the glove. I think it was 14, maybe 17 days before he finally ate.
What? Oh my God.
And it was 17 days of fucking torture. And then he finally ate on the glove. And by, I would say, probably about 30 days, he was the sweetest fucking dude in the world.
Yeah, that's cool.
But goddamn, was that difficult that first fucking
It's funny you say that, because I'm bitching about manning this little goshawk. Like, I hate manning birds. It sucks.
It's not the most fun thing to do. But that one, like, I was like into it because it was something I never worked with before. But fuck me, it was just torture. But now, like, I can walk into him. I can basically like touch his feet, stroke his feathers. He is a complete gentleman. And I really don't actually work with him as much anymore, like glove work with him, because he just doesn't balance well. He'll sit pretty well on the glove, but if I'm walking around with him and stuff like that, he grabs on pretty tough, and it's just like, this isn't fair for him. He doesn't do well with it. So I take him out of the aviary, and we like have him do like stump jumps and stuff like that from time to time, just to kind of do something with him. But yeah, he's a really awesome bird, but it's just such a shame that he can't be flown. And if he could be flown, he wouldn't be here on the East Coast. He'd be out west.
Yeah. So that bird is like the African version of like a golden eagle, basically.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because it looks very similar from like seeing it at your house and stuff. Like it just looks like a jet black golden eagle, pretty much.
Yeah, it's got a big white diamond on its back when its wings are open.
Okay,
that's cool.
And I think that mostly has to do with like almost like a heat like thing when they're out soaring around and stuff like that. They're not getting too hot.
Like a little vent pipe.
Yeah, it's just like a little cooling patch, basically. But yeah, I mean, they hunt what's called like a hyrax, which is basically Africa's version of our groundhog. And they catch obviously much bigger things, but that's their main prey.
Interesting.
I was reading actually somewhere one time where it talked about that they do a lot of like nest, I guess you could say scavenging sort of thing, but they'll like raid other birds' nests, especially some of the fucking big birds that are out there, and just eat those little babies.
Yeah, there's not much that could stop that thing.
No,
and that's an easy meal, smart for something that has to fight to survive.
Yeah, I mean, out in Africa, the competition with those eagles is so high compared to where it is in other parts of the world. I mean, golden eagles have no competition whatsoever. In Africa, you got martial eagles, black eagles, crowned eagles, and then you get into like smaller things like Wahlberg's eagles. Jesus, why am I forgetting so many names?
There's probably a million of them out over there.
I think there's 47 different eagle species in Africa.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Aaron's about to get a plane ticket.
I'm gonna get back to my roots.
Yeah.
Tom had never seen me before, and he thought that I could be sub-Saharan African at first.
I
get that vibe
you don't
from
want to
you.
assume things.
Yeah.
We were saying the conversation is quite different from what we're talking about right now, but everyone that's not pure sub-Saharan African has Neanderthal DNA. You know that, Casey?
I don't think I knew that. No, I didn't know that.
So
you of all people should definitely know that.
Some of us
Got the
have
brow,
a
the
little more than
Neanderthal
others.
brow.
Yeah, we
That big
basically
forehead.
humans simultaneously bred out Neanderthals and killed the rest of them. So they suspect that we took the women and killed the males.
Sounds about right.
Yeah,
I bet those women were a handful.
I bet they were. This is a very sexy.
This episode's getting a little PG-13
hot.
over.
Yeah,
a little
it's getting
hot
hot.
over here. It's getting kind of warm in here.
What happens when you talk about breeding?
Yeah. So Tom, you briefly mentioned Benellis.
Yes.
And it's no secret to anyone that knows me is that I have this obsession with the hawk eagles too. Is that I believe that Benellis and hawk eagles could be great falconry birds on the East Coast.
Absolutely.
It's a shame they're not obtainable for. I mean, if you want to buy a Benellis, you can't buy one.
Well, I mean, technically you could. It's just never going to make its way into the country. Sure, some guy in Spain or some other country would gladly take your money.
In UK, they can just, a falconer in the UK could spend, a couple £1,000 and go buy a Benelli's eagle.
Oh, you could buy a steppe eagle for like £2,000.
What?
Yeah, I mean, not that they're very good for falconry, but their laws are a lot different. There's just kind of amount of time that they've spent bringing birds in, and how much. Like in our country, we don't have the term an aviculturalist really. Like that's not something that's like very well like heard of a lot and stuff like that. Over in Europe, there's plenty of people that whether they breed backyard eagles or they breed backyard ornamental ducks or pheasants and stuff like that, cranes. It's very popular for people to breed birds over in Europe.
Would you consider like citizen, which parrot, we know what citizens are, but parrot breeders, are those aviculturists?
Yes. So I guess, yes, we do have some of that, but that's like, it's so specific just because of like, I would say more our laws that they're kind of like looked upon as being like an acceptable bird for people to have in their
right.
backyard.
It's almost like a domestic animal.
Yeah, exactly.
They're perfectly suited for captivity.
What bird are you talking about? Because that just went over my head.
Parrots, any kind of parrot species.
Personally, if they're great in captivity, if you have a social colony type parrot, you should have it in with other birds. Like that, at least around them. If you're not, personally, I think that's like a huge detriment to their, kind of mental stability and all that sort of stuff. That's where I feel like they get the most destructive and like kind of harming themselves. Stuff like
no wonder people have birds that destroy their houses and scream,
Yeah.
I feel the social animal deprived of that.
Yeah.
Personally, I feel like parrots, like they're more socially acceptable, of course, but if you really think about it, it really shouldn't be, because most people that go to a pet store and want to spend $1,200, at least it used to be $1,200 for an African gray parrot, they can, but like it requires a lot of attention, and they require a lot of work, more than people think. And I mean, I'm in people's houses every day, and I see parrots in people's houses. And my uncle in Florida, he's got all different kinds of parrot. Him and his husband, they have all different parrots, but they're like super diligent with their parrot. Like every single night, they change everything. They take them out. They interact with them. They change out all the food, all the water. It's like a whole ritual. And they love their parrots. And like I was in a customer's house, and like I still, like to this day, this was like probably 15 years ago, and I was in the basement, and dude, I'm in a dungy basement, and there's like, I hear like, hello, like, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I'm like, yo, this guy's gonna kill me, like eat me. And I thought like it was like a person. I walk over, dude, there's a parrot like in the corner of this like storage like hoarder house, just like in the boxes, shit piling up, just sitting there talking to itself. And I like, it upset me, man. Like I was like, I said something. I said, "What's the deal with the parrot?" And like, oh, it was my mom's or something.
I was just gonna say, fucking
yeah. And it's like I'm trying to work with it. Like I don't know what to do. And I just like I'm like, dude, you really come on, man. You got to do something with that poor thing. He's like, I know. My girlfriend was telling, and it was just down there, just like rambling itself, like by itself in the fucking dark, in the corner of this dungy basement. And I was just like, come on, man. Like, what are you doing, bro? I was gonna take it, but like, the hell am I gonna do with it?
Oh, I can't stand parrots. I've had a few of them. And,
yeah, my wife wants one, and I'm like, you hate my goshawks? Like, And you want a parrot in the house flicking seeds everywhere? What do you get out of here?
It's just
Maybe,
the noise
maybe.
of them. They just go off at just random times and like, oof, man, are they loud?
And they scare me too. They'll bite your ear off, man. They'll pluck your eye out. I don't trust them.
Definitely have to be careful with them. I mean, but you know,
yeah, I think Tom, back to what you were saying about aviculture.
Sorry.
Or aviculturists. I mean, it's all related.
Yeah.
When I think about that and I think about Europe, there will be guys and gals that are interested in like oddball weird shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's probably your point. If somebody there they're breeding exotic, African eagles in their backyard.
Yeah.
Or they've got some sort of weird little tanger bird or some sort of oddball little Asian songbird that they're just super passionate about. And that's just not common here.
No, I know like this one lady in the Netherlands, when she sent me pictures of her setup in the backyard, it's just like, there's the spectacled owls. There's, I forget, like maybe a brown wood owl or something like that. There's like the unique storks that she breeds right there. And then in front of that aviary spot is this like beautifully manicured pond area, and that's where she's breeding her like ornamental ducks that she's like really into and stuff like that. So it's just like that sort of thing is so much more common over there that it allows, and like they have access to Asia, and birds migrate up from Africa, so they have so much more kind of accessibility from things that we would consider if we, from here, if I live in England and a Benelli's eagle, showed up, it would be like, well, that's an exotic bird, but it's like, they can get blown up there from time to time. So like you can, like get them there. So, and then,
so you're saying if we lived over there in England and the three of us said, yeah, we want to get a dozen Benelli's eagles, we could do it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you had the motivation to, like, let me put it this way: we've gotten them here into this country, and it was not easy in any way. Over there, it's going to be easier. I think since we talked about this, Aaron, since the Brexit thing, I think England has had harder times with it. But
I heard that. Yeah,
the EU,
I heard that firsthand from somebody in England.
When it was the whole EU sort of setup, other countries have completely different laws with birds, but as far as importing them in between the whole EU, it was all the same, So somebody in like Croatia or Czech Republic could get some really cool things and then just disseminate them into the rest of Europe, basically. Same with Spain, same with all those countries, basically. So it just worked out very well for them. So it's a lot easier. And then, I mean, in places like there's that guy Pira in Thailand. He gets his CITES permits within about 3 days, I think, maybe 7 at most.
What's it take here? A year or two?
I mean, if you're really, really, really lucky, maybe 6 months, maybe. But yeah, more likely closer to a year.
And the problem is with this stuff is there's no political party that is a friend to bird breeders, falconers, whatever,
I mean, we can hope that our next president is a falconer.
As I was just going to say, we have somebody that possibly could be.
We might have an individual, but as far as a party goes,
yeah, no, it's going to be tough for sure.
It's like the Eagle Protection Act, I think that should be changed. It should exist, but it should be changed.
So the one nice thing, and I will say this, is that the Eagle Protection Act is a law, so that's going to have to go through Congress to be changed, basically. But if just hypothetically Bobby Kennedy became president, he could appoint someone at the head of U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service that could basically rewrite regulations if he wanted to on lots of different things, and in ways that would make both our lives easier and just more common sense as far as how we handle things and stuff like that. So yeah, that would be like ideal, but no, we're not going to be able to get rid of laws probably.
Yeah.
Is there any hope for us being able to get those exotic eagles and I don't want to say common falconry bird in America, but as, let's say, let's say my plan was next season I wanted to fly a Benelli's eagle, and then I put a deposit down and get one. Is that possible in the future as it stands?
More likely for an African hawk eagle, but yeah.
Okay, so you think we could see that?
Yeah,
in the future.
So I mean, so we were talking about the Golden Eagle Act. The reason for that, and basically because Nevada also has a law that says that falconers out there can't work with golden eagles. That's the reason why Dave Canellis decided to change a lot and brought in. God damn, he's got to have had to have brought in close to 60 eagles into this country.
Wow, that's awesome.
I have to assume that's probably pretty close to the number. Maybe 40 somewhere.
What do you think are suitable eagles for falconry other than golden eagles? Obviously,
great question.
I think the black eagles, the crowned eagles, people have already proved that that's the case. The African hawk eagles and the Benelli's eagles. I mean, but then we're talking you start getting into the Spizatises. If we can ever get access to anything down in Central and South America, the African hawk eagles, the tyrant hawk eagles, when I was a kid, they were called Isidore's eagles, but now they're called black and chestnut eagles. Look those up if you haven't seen what those are. Those are so fucking pretty.
Those are in South America in the jungles and stuff.
Yeah. Any of those jungle species are going to do fine here on the East Coast. It's like flying a goshawk, basically. Big giant goshawks.
How can we make that happen? I mean, I heard.
Alex is to say, and then you get into Southeast Asia with the mountain hawk eagles, changeable hawk eagles. Forgetting some of the other names of them.
Oh my God. Look at that thing. What is that?
They're the prettiest things ever.
It's a chestnut eagle.
Yeah, black and chestnut.
Look at the size of it. That's a big bird.
Oh, yeah. They're about the size of crowned eagles.
I think that thing would kill some nice squirrels, man. I think
Harpy eagles would be too big, I would assume, right?
Way too big, yeah.
No. I'd be scared of it killing a child, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you're getting to that size.
I think it would fly away with a jackrabbit if it wanted to.
I think it could fly away with things probably 3 times as heavier. If
fly away with you. You're holding it on the glove, holding the jesses, and it just flies away.
Yeah. Well, I don't have you.
And you see the young ones. Almost all the hawk eagles, the young ones are that white color. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible when I see pictures of people on the internet with different immature hawk eagles.
That's funny.
With different immature hawk eagles, it's almost impossible for me to tell which ones are which.
Oh, really? They all look very similar. It's like in that genus.
Yeah. Like a crowned eagle looks almost exactly the same as that. An immature crowned eagle looks almost exactly the same as that. And then the changeables look almost exactly the same as well.
Are there breeders in South America that you know of that are? I mean, I'm sure there are, obviously, but do you know of any? Because you're in that. That's like your thing. You're in that world.
I see some guy in Brazil looks like breeding harpies. I don't see him breeding the black and chestnuts.
I know exactly who you're talking about. He seems like he's successful.
Seems like it. And power to him. The guy who works for me, his name is Jim. He's another guy you should get on this podcast because he does some pretty cool shit.
He's a big talker. He likes to talk a lot. Real chatty.
Yeah, you're probably gonna have to squeeze the words out of him.
You'll spend a whole day with that guy, and he'll say not one single word.
Yeah, probably not.
He's a very interesting guy, and he'll strangle the life out of you. He's like a 5th degree black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Nah, he's not that high. I think he's a brown belt.
No, he's not. I thought he's a black belt, isn't he?
Nah, he's a brown belt, but he's trained at
okay. In that case, I could take him.
He's trained at the basement with Henzo Gracie and John Danaher down in New York City and stuff like that. Like he's taking it very seriously.
Oh yeah, it's his life. He teaches. He trains with.
It's basically jiu-jitsu is that kid's life.
Jim Miller. It's funny. Quick story. Yeah, at the Jim Miller School in Jersey, I was the last day of the season. I caught my last rabbit, and I walk out of the woods, and and it was like kind of like a little bit of a shit show because someone's dog wasn't listening and we were trying to get it. And then it was in a hole and I had the bird and I'm trying to give her a nice big crop. So I walk out to my truck through the brush. I chucked the carcass down. I let her go down and I just tied her off, and just let her just enjoy. And Jim Miller's gym is literally right there. And this guy walks out. We're like kind of parked in the back of the lot. And he's like, what are you guys doing over there? And I'm like, oh, I'm just flying my bird, whatever. And he goes, I know a guy that does that. And I go, is his name Jim or James? And he goes, oh yeah, Birdman. I know James. I go, I know James too. And he goes, oh, small world, man. We're talking. He's watching my bird. It was just like, funny like how that happens, because I knew that Jim trained there from time to time because he rotates. Like he'll teach here and then train and then teach there and then train. And
he's all over the area training. He was there for, I think, Jim's last 3 fights, helping him train for those.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah, no, he's really serious about it. And then when he's not here working for me, doing helping me out with things and then doing the education programs that we do, he's in South Africa working on a vulture rehabilitation project out there. And then this past year, he went down to Ecuador back in April. He was down in Ecuador and did some work with the Andean condors, but they took him around to, I think they spotted I don't know, I think there's 16 of those black and chestnut eagle nests.
Wow.
They're supposedly endangered there, but I was like, this guy knows where 16 nests are in the jungle. And
he knows where 16 nests are, and I heard that the southern border is not very secure these days. Maybe we need to
let's go, boys.
Let's go. Jim, if you're listening.
Yeah,
so,
what's
the problem? What's the problem with South and Central America with getting birds here? I would think that would be easier than virtually anywhere else.
It's
basically, you can get fentanyl. I mean, you got to be able to get a bird.
Yeah, you can get people. We could import some people across the border.
Yeah, this is the problem. We're trying to do it the legal way.
Right.
If we did it the illegal way, we'd probably be much more successful.
Good point.
Basically, in a nutshell, when it comes to importing birds, not even talking about being in a co-op, which is what you need to be to actually import birds. You actually, wherever you're getting these birds from, you have to have somebody who's willing to, you have to have the information on the birds, their band numbers and all the information that the feds want about them, basically as you apply for the CITES license. So the same birds that you get the information from whoever you are dealing with in whatever country it is, it has to be those same birds arrive in this country, because if they don't, if it's different band numbers, different anything, they are getting sent right back to where they came from.
So essentially, you have to buy the bird and pay for it, and then go through the process for over a year, possibly.
And that person has to take care of those birds for however long that time is. So most people who are exporting birds to other places in the world are like, yeah, I mean, I can wait for you guys. And then somebody else comes along and they're like, sorry, I sold that thing. And you're like, you can't do that. I have to start all the way from the beginning again. You have to basically build very, very strong relations with the people that you're trying to get these birds from, because they are going to be doing you one hell of a favor, basically.
That's a good point.
To them, it's just easy. I mean, it's asking a lot of somebody to do that, because it's so much easier just to sell to somebody.
It would be like if somebody asked me to do that for a Harris hawk, I'd be like, yeah. Or if somebody calls me tomorrow, it's going.
The thing is, we don't have anything to offer those people,
Prairie falcons. A lot of Europeans want to get prairie falcons.
I could see that.
I'll pull some permits and go trap some for propagation this year if I need to.
Here we go. Given the feds are going to show up down there in North Carolina.
I mean, no, it's pretty easy. You get permission from the state, you go trap them legally, bring them back, and
you have to breed them though.
Yeah,
you breed them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You breed them, and then their offspring can
be shipped out. Yep.
Right.
So yeah, Europeans are really interested in prairie falcons. They'd love to get them. I was actually this is years ago, but when I was talking to somebody about black sparrow hawks, it was like, yes, get me prairies and we'll get down that road. And I was like, all right. And then
wait. Tom, you have a connection for black sparrowhawks?
Yeah, I've got a few.
Come on, man. What are we doing here?
It's just, I don't give a fuck about goshawks. So
I do. I'll do the legwork. Well, you want to fill paperwork out, I'll do it. Come on.
Dude, the process is designed to where it's just almost impossible.
Yeah, I mean, even us that have done this now for many years and we know this process well, I think it's driving Dave Canellis into an early grave. I think it's just like
he's only like 30 years old, right?
That's hilarious. Is so Dave Canellis is the same guy? He flew a white goshawk a couple years ago, and he's got like that brace that holds his arm up because his shoulder's bad or something. Yeah. Okay.
He did construction.
That's why the joke is funny, because he's clearly not 30 years old.
No, definitely not. Dave was like basically 18 years old, getting into falconry when he first met my dad, when we all lived out in California. And basically Dave would call the house, I would say, at least once a week for my entire childhood. We still talk all the time, but he was just, always asking my dad questions and stuff like that. And they became really, really, really close friends. And now that my dad doesn't really do falconry anymore, Dave's kind of like my mentor big time for awesome. A lot of things. Yeah, I'm really, once again, very, very, very lucky.
Yeah, and you and your dad, not to change the subject, but it's a great story that you told me a while ago, that like every year, I think you said that you and your dad would go on like a road trip and hawk all the way out there and fly with him and hang out with him and stuff.
No, we for a couple of years, it wasn't every year. A couple of years we flew out to Vegas and went and hung out with him. So I mean, I'll just tell people, my dad like medically can't really fly birds anymore. Basically, like up until while he still had his last crowned eagle, we went out there a few times just to try and give it a shot hunting jacks. And I went out with them and just brought some hair socks with me and had some fun chasing jacks and cottontails out there. Yeah, I think we did that. Like, I think I went 4 times, and obviously my dad probably went like, I don't know, 6 or 7. My Uncle Brian went with him. Uncle Brian's a falconer as well. He went with him a few times. And then they went out, they met up in Kansas at Titus's house and did some falconry out there one time. But that's all recently. That's all within the last.
Okay. I don't know why I thought it was like a tradition, a family tradition. Maybe my imagination just like filled in gaps that weren't there.
It's the adventure Casey wants with his dad.
So, all right, exactly. Aaron, yeah. My dad was too busy driving his bus. Never around for us. Oh my God. All right. So enough about me. Let's so Tom, Aaron, do you have any more questions? Because I wanted to touch on something that
I think I beat him up about eagles and breeding birds for a good solid hour. So
I'm happy to answer any questions, guys.
Okay.
I literally talk about birds all the time to people who know nothing about birds. So talking like actual real shit with some falconers is so much more fun.
Yeah. Yeah, good. So, but this is like not necessarily, I mean, it's falconry related, but it's something different and unique and part of who you are as a person. And so, for those that don't know, the whole Bobby Kennedy thing, being a falconer, and me getting the chance to go, and like him involved in falconry, like Tom grew up, like kind of more or less hanging, like hawking with Bobby Kennedy, like all the time with his dad and him. Can you talk us through that whole like relationship and how it still is going on to this day and how that all has come about?
All right. Well, let me tell my dad's story.
Go ahead.
And then it'll lead into Bobby, basically. So my dad was born in 1951. He saw a Disney film when he was 10 years old called Rusty and the Falcon, I think. And one Saturday morning, and he caught the bug for falconry from that. Wow. So that would have been like 1960, 1961. He convinced I think he got a red tail from some like crazy mountain man that my grandfather knew, that like, he like trapped it with like I have no fucking idea. It showed up with like 2 broken legs and
You trapped it with a bear trap on its on a pole.
Yeah,
Trapped
like,
it with a 12 gauge.
something like that. So basically, my dad's first bird was just rehabilitating a red tail, and then he eventually convinced my grandmother to drive him up to SUNY New Paltz, which is the college about 40 minutes north of here, and that's where Dr. Heinz Bang was the professor of biology. And this would have been about 3 years, I think, before Heinz bred his first peregrines. So it was right around that time. And I think when he first met Heinz was like, all right, you know, he's snot-nosed little kid, you know, come back when you're like older, basically. So he kept he kept that fire alive. He went to college in England because it was in the middle of the Vietnam War, and he actually knew he was going to be drafted in the next year. So he applied for school and went to school in England to get the hell away. And I think he was in college for about 2 months, and then he dropped out and started working at the basically just called the Falconry Center, but it's the National Bird of Prey Center in England, and that's it was run by Philip Glazier, who is Jemima Perry Jones' dad. And at first, basically, Philip Glazier was just like, you know, get out of here, you snot-nosed kid. And my dad just wouldn't leave it alone and ended up working there and becoming like kind of the head falconer. I think he worked there for 9 years, seven or 9 years. And then he spent the next like 6 or 7 years basically collecting birds for Philip Glazier and other people over in Europe. So he went kind of all around the world. While he was in England, he went to Afghanistan and learned how they did falconry, like the Bedouin warrior, like people out there. Spent about a month in Afghanistan. Like he got to Afghanistan, went to a market. He was able to buy a goshawk right at the market, and took a Jeep with this guy who I think was like a Red Cross guy or something like that. This is before all the wars and everything like that, with like Russia and stuff like that. And went up into the mountains, met these dudes, and what it was, they came into the village and they saw him holding his goshawk, and my dad's like got a big red beard and like blonde hair and stuff like that, and they're like, who the fuck is this guy? They walked right up to him. One of the guys got off as my dad describes it, guy's got double rifles on his back and bandoliers of ammo just across him. Walks right up to him, sticks his hand right on the breast, and feels basically where the bird's at, and immediately just starts telling my dad, no, you're not doing it right. Basically, starts telling him all this different stuff. So my dad ended up spending about a month with them, going out falconry with them, and I think he was able to get his goshawk to like catch some little small bird or something like that, but let it go after he was basically ready to leave. Traveled back through trains and buses and everything like that back to England. But yeah, worked at the Falconry Center for years. And then when he came back, like I said, after he was living in the United States, but he was traveling quite a bit, locating and relocating different types of birds. And then my parents moved to California. No, this was going before California. So Bobby Kennedy, when he wanted to get back into falconry, this was like the early 80s. He was living in New York, and he went to Heinz Meng's house. And by this time, my dad was good friends with Heinz. And basically, my dad walked into Heinz's kitchen one morning, and Bobby was sitting there, and they were just chatting it up. And they became like pretty much best friends from that time forward. I think my dad's been to every single one of Bobby's weddings.
How many of those have there been?
3. Yeah, he's just known him for no, maybe he wasn't there for the first one, because that would have been before he met him, Emily. But yeah, I grew up with his kids. His eldest son, Bobby the third, is I think 2 years older than me, and then his eldest daughter, Kick, or Kathleen's her name, but everybody just calls her Kick. she is about 8 months younger than me. And we would just like, not only were we like flying birds with the Kennedys, but like we would go camping with them. We would go to their house and play capture the flag on weekends. We just hung out with them like all the time. And it really kind of ended basically when Bobby moved out to California. We still see him from time to time, but just not as much because he's not living in New York anymore. But like we would go on these like wild camping trips where like we would just like he bought a boat and we would just load people and gear onto the boat and we just go out to this island that we had no permission to be on whatsoever, and just start setting up camping gear. And more often than not, by like middle of the evening that night, the sheriffs would show up and Bobby would just walk out and be like, "Hey, how's it going? I'm Bobby Kennedy." And before you know it, they're like taking pictures with him and they're like, yeah. "Have a great time." So nice. We just hanging out with Bobby was tons of fun. Like the whole family, they're a really awesome, really cool people. Very down to earth. They're all into like just the outdoors and stuff like that. I learned how to scuba dive in Bobby's pool. I learned how to roll a kayak in Bobby's pool. Bobby's a big fisherman. I did almost most of my fishing in my life with Bobby. So yeah, it was just an awesome time growing up around him and that family. So yeah, I mean, even to this day, when Bobby, you've described it before, but Bobby does like these charity events where to raise money for the organizations that he works for. You can basically pay for a falconry experience with Bobby Kennedy. And that happens here in New York with us. So he comes and we put on this whole, pageantry of folks,
yeah.
Basically.
It's a lot of fun, though. It's a lot of fun.
I mean, we have an afternoon with these people, so we want to kind of pack in as much as we can, and just make sure that things are happening and people are seeing things, because they pay some of this is all just secondhand, but I mean, big dollars to go do this thing with him. So we try and just make sure that it's pretty much like bang, bang, bang entertainment all the time. Yeah. But yeah, Bobby I don't think he had anything other than Harry socks most of my life, but he flew like other birds before I knew him, but he pretty much only had Harry socks. And his one hair sock was the offspring of my parents' hair socks. Yeah, we've just been flying birds together for forever, basically.
That's super cool. I would imagine with his life and schedule that it would be hard to be a super hardcore game hawker like consistently, with everything that he's got going on.
Well, he doesn't do it anymore now that he lives in California, just because he never, I don't think he ever transferred his licensing out there. He still just maintains his New York license. I think when he got out to California, he got into surfing and just got into like some other hobbies basically. And just, kind of, he still does falconry, but he just likes to go out with us sort of thing. He doesn't really fly himself anymore. Where he lived in Westchester, it's a county on the other side of the river, the Hudson River from us here. And he had like a property, it butted up against a bunch of his neighbors' properties, but we had like woods, like you just had to walk out his front door and you're across the driveway and into the woods basically. And then all you had to do is walk up the driveway and across the street and you're into like big open meadows and fields that were like just his neighbor's property. And he had access to all of that. So it was just way easier. He had a little carriage house in the back and he had like a gamekeeper, like a, property keeper sort of thing. And so when he was away and stuff, the birds were taken care of. But he would normally basically call him and say like, "Hey, Thursday, stop feeding the bird. I'm going to be back Saturday. I'm flying, when I get back basically." And bird would be down to wait and he'd go.
Like traditional falconry, he was the king and the falconer was in the chambers maintaining and flying the birds and keeping them fit. And
he had a mew master who was
a mew master. Yeah. And did he make him sleep in there with the birds or did he just come every day?
No,
he lived in there.
His house was like basically above right next to the.
That's cool.
Bobby had peacock. Bobby had all sorts of shit. So he had he had Komodo dragons.
No way, dude. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, they were given to him given to his father by the government of Indonesia.
Does he still have them?
No, they went to a zoo. He had a Sumatran tiger that is stuffed in his office. It used to be in the front entryway to his house, but that was given to him as well, and he kept that for I think until it died.
So it was alive, and then he had it taxied.
Yeah.
I thought about doing that with one of my dogs, making like a pair of gloves out of her. No, they do that when the sled dog's up there. And
do it out of Franny right now.
No, her coat's not as thick as Ginger's. Ginger would be a nicer coat. No, up in the Arctic with the Inuits, when one of their sled dogs dies, to honor them, they make those big mittens.
Okay.
And they make a pair of big mittens out of them. But anyway, continue.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. You skinning your dachshund, you probably wouldn't even get enough for your one hand.
Yeah, it's true.
That's where my mind went when you said that. I was like, what the hell are you talking about?
It's a tradition, ancient Inuit tradition to do that.
It's a tradition. It's a year old in southern New York.
Yeah, we follow him very closely here in New York. But yeah, I mean, he had some alligators when we were kids. Man,
I'm sure you got stories for days about hanging out with them and all his stuff.
Yeah, Bobby's just one of those dudes who, like, you know, he'll just, like, you know, for most people it throws them off. So, like, that's why he's, like, you know, kind of such an interesting cat. But, like, you know, when you're in the woods, he'll just pick anything up and just start talking about it and showing it off to people. So, like, we would go out to go fly, and the reason why we were always, like, kind of invited was just because, like, we had cool birds, but, like, we were good at, like, entertaining his guests, sort of thing, you know?
He knew you were fly hard and you'd get the job done and it would be entertaining for people. Yeah, he didn't want all the pressure on himself, and I understand that.
Or just, like, more, like, Bobby's like he's a very, like, sociable person, but I don't think he likes to be a sociable person. I think he'd much rather just be in the woods by himself, like, just doing his own thing. But, you know, like, just years of having done it, being a Kennedy, he is very good at it. But I think he prefers to have as many people around him to kind of take away some of the, like, attention from him, sort of thing.
That makes sense.
But yeah, I mean, like, we would do it with, like, you know, people that were just, like, business people that he was trying to get, you know, money from, basically donations for his, you know, environmental organizations and stuff like that. But then sometimes it would be, like, celebrities, stuff like that. Like, I mean, you know, he's friends with all sorts of them. So, you know, I remember, oh man, Julia Louis Dreyfus, we took out flying birds, and she fucking loved it. She was grabbing a stick and beating every brush and everything like that.
Oh, that's cool.
Really cool.
Elaine from Seinfeld.
Oh yeah. She had a nose ring too. I remember, like, because I was at the time, this would have been while Seinfeld was on, or maybe it had just ended or something like that. And, you know, she shows up with a nose ring, and I'm just like, this lady's fucking awesome. Like, I knew you were hilarious, but, like, you're way cooler. And then her son was really into it and was thinking about becoming a falconer, but I don't think he ever did anything with it. Paul Newman's daughter was a falconer, and Bobby knew her. And they would go out from time to time, go fly birds. And then, oh my God, like Alec Baldwin, John McEnroe, Jesus Christ, all the different crazy people we had out there. And, like, that's the thing with Bobby, like those camping trips I was telling you guys about, he would literally be, like, just, you know, running into people, like, the week before the camping trip and be like, yeah, come, like, you know, like, we've got extra gear, no problem, like, we'll take care of you and stuff. And, like, for some of these people, camping was like a fucking Ramada Inn, you know? Like, that's as far as they ever thought about being camping. And we drag them out in the middle of the woods and, like, you know, basically, like, here's your tent, here's your sleeping bag, good fucking luck. And
that's awesome.
We had a lot of fun doing that. God damn, we did so much crazy shit. I remember we were at the Kennedy compound and we were like playing flag football, and it was like JFK Jr., Christopher Lawford, Daryl Hannah, Oh man, who else was there? Was Tom Hanks there as well?
No way.
Um,
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then Ted Kennedy, who's the senator, was there, and he fucking came out and yelled at all of us for making too much noise, and it was just—it's crazy. Hanging out with Bobby and the Kennedys is just wild, wild times.
So, what do you think? What do you think of the chances of us getting him on this here podcast?
I mean, the podcast. I think if once the election thing is over, he'll have a lot more time, and he
Makes
loves
sense.
talking like birds and you know, kind of he's a fucking cool, interesting dude. You know, the nice thing about this podcast and the reason why I like it so much, your guys' podcast, is that, you know, you're talking about not just falconry, but all sorts of cool shit. You know, guys running dogs on bears and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Bobby will be happy to talk to you guys about all sorts of different things, not just falconry and stuff like that.
Awesome. That's good, man. That's just such a cool. I I'm friends with like a couple UFC fighters and stuff. When we were young, we'd like go out, party, and hang out, and it was like you'd be out hanging out with them, you know, and like training with them and stuff, and then you'd see them like on TV, like fighting, and like Joe Rogan's announcing them. So, like, and that was crazy to me. But like for you, it's like it's like you're friends with these people and you're seeing them on TV, and you know, now that he's running, people are trying to like, you know, say stuff about him that's probably not even true, and you know him, and so it's probably just like such a crazy experience for you to be having like basically been brought up around that family, hanging out with them and being part of everything that they did. You know what I mean? It's just probably surreal for you, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was just extremely lucky to have a ton of falconers around me as being like my mentors, essentially. And Bobby was one of the coolest ones because, and he wasn't the only one. Like Heinz Meng, like he was a biologist, you know. So like when we were out flying birds together, he would always, you know, it wouldn't just be about talking falconry. You know, we would be talking about the biology out in the meadow and biology in the stream, and you know, what's doing well this year, what's not doing well this year. Have you seen any of these so far? You know, like it was
cool.
Constant just talking about what's going on out here, you know. One of the other guys that we fly with, Bill Robinson, he basically took over Heinz's job for a little while as the professor of biology at that college that's over here. And you know, same thing. He's always just kind of going on about all the stuff that's out here, you know. So that's what I grew up with, and I was just extremely, extremely lucky.
Yeah, Bill Robinson's another one that would be a good guess. He's found quite a few goshawk nests.
Oh yeah, he knows goshawks. I mean, he's been flying goshawks for 50 years at least. He's you know, climbed into lots of trees.
He was the guy in New York. I don't know if he's still at it, but he was the guy like in New York State. Like he knew the hot spots, where to go, spots that were historical. I think the spot that I told the previous story of that had goshawks like 30 years previous, and then like 12 or 14 years before me and my sponsor found it. I think that was a Robinson connection. And he said, yeah, I'm not going to check it. Like maybe it was an article, check it there. You know what I mean? And like, so he knew a lot of like he was pretty involved. I don't think I've ever met him before.
Oh yeah. He's a hilarious guy. He actually had a little bit of an accident and he burnt a bunch of his skin. So he's definitely not climbing trees anymore. Yeah, no, he lives basically in the woods that you're going to go look for goshawks in. So like, and yeah, I mean, there was a bunch that I guess I'd say less so now. I just don't know who's really practicing falconry up in that area, but there were a lot more back in the day that kind of made their way into that area, and they were obsessed with the goshawks.
Well, when you live up there and you know how hard it is to find them, it becomes this like elusive, special thing that you want to try to obtain. And, you know, and then it just like the thrill of the actual bird sometimes is more exciting than, you know, dealing with the bird and flying the bird for some people, you know?
I mean, let's put it this way. Where we know goshawks are in New York, we're talking about an area that's, I don't know exactly what the square mileage is, but let's assume there's probably 100 million trees.
Oh, yeah. Easily.
And somewhere in there, there's going to be, for every, I don't know, a million trees, there's a goshawk nest.
Probably more than that, I would imagine. There's probably a million trees on one mountain.
Nah.
Don't you think?
No, a million's a lot.
Is it?
But we're
looking at those hills.
I mean, we're talking about like the Catskill and Adirondack areas here in New York. The Adirondacks is like almost 1/6 our state, maybe 1/7 or 1/8 our state. And it's all, I mean, some of it's still mature, old growth forest. But yeah, I mean, we're talking about areas that are huge. So, I mean, it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack.
It really is.
Even when you guys really know what you're doing and what you're looking for, it still is.
I saw a passage fly across the road in the Adirondacks while I was on vacation.
Huh.
Flew right across the road. And I remember when I finally got service, I called Phil and I said, I just saw a passage, and he's giving me like, oh, are you sure it was I said, dude, I literally have one at home. It flew right across the road. I was like, it's right there.
The only times I ever see them, if we're not ridge trapping, is they're soaring. I never see them passing through the woods or anything like that. Never run into them that way. They're always up in the air, soaring around. Which is
think about how common even Cooper's hawks are, and you just rarely see them. You know,
yeah,
I mean, you go to see them, but you know how many there are.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there's tens of thousands of them everywhere. But how often you actually see them compared to that is pretty minimal. Now imagine goshawks.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Get yourself a kestrel or a merlin, and you'll see all the Cooper's hawks you want.
Or an applemato, man.
Or an applemato, a nice flashy bird.
You'll attract every Cooper's hawk within miles.
They're everywhere. They're always watching. They're everywhere. They're like Richard Moats. They're everywhere.
Yeah, he's among us right now.
I released a red tail in my yard that I trapped. I brought it home to show everybody, and I just threw it up in the air, and a Cooper's hawk just came out of nowhere. It just
kills it.
Oh, it was like 20 feet away, just sitting there, and it just comes out of the shadows and just dive bombs this red tail. He was probably hoping I had an applemato inside that box.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
I've never come across anything that was more Cooper's hawk food in my life. They would see those things, and they would. Oh my god. I think I had at one point I had 3 come in while the bird was still down on the ground, and I'm running towards it, doing this,
yeah.
And one's coming like this, and another one's coming across that way. It was right at the beginning. It was like, I want to say like end of September, like migration, like high point. Things are just passing through like crazy, and things are all over the place.
I have enough Cooper's hawks here to where my rule is now. There's an exception. I'll get into that. I won't fly anything that a Cooper's hawk can kill. The only exception that is a sharp shin, but you're not flying those in places where there really are Cooper's hawks, like urban environments, parking lots.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys might be able to tell me differently. I mean, there's not a lot of people that are really hunting with sharp shins because of just, the size, difficulty, and everything like that. But I've never really heard about them getting preyed upon by Cooper's hawks.
Yeah, it's probably a good point that you don't hear a lot about people flying them, so maybe that's part of why it is. But
I think, if you flew them like they fly kestrels and applematos, I think they would.
Probably. You're probably right. But my best guess is that they're, even kestrels, they're just so kind of slow off the initial jump that's where like a Cooper's hawk just takes complete advantage of that. Whereas with the sharpshin, I could just imagine them being almost equal as far as just that initial get away sort of thing.
And the reaction time, maneuverability to get out of the way.
Almost all of them can just do like a 45-degree angle, just like straight up into the air.
Yeah. They might look at them and make the calculation that this isn't worth my effort of trying to get it. Yeah. Because it's going to get away. You can imagine like what a nice meal that is for a Cooper's hawk to get a kestrel that's on a starling.
Oh yeah.
Like that's a dream come true. Yeah.
But like, now I'm thinking about it, and I don't run into them too often when I'm out flying. Like But like when a Harris hawk, or you guys probably know with your goshawks as well, when they see an owl, it's just like, holy fuck, I can catch that thing
instantly.
Yeah. And you can almost see like the glee in their eyes as they're just like taking off.
It's crazy.
And they fly harder than they go after almost anything else.
Yeah.
But I've never had a bird ever even try. Like I've had them go after, my Harris hawks go after like broadwings and red shoulders and red tails. But man, I've only had Cooper's hawks come in on my Harris hawks. I've never had a Harris hawk say, "Oh, I'm going to go try and catch that thing." Because like, they must see it and be like, "No fucking chance."
Yeah, it's a good thing that your Harris hawks didn't go after that red shoulder, because they'd be in for a lot of trouble. Red shoulders are they're pretty elite. They're apex.
I've heard that.
Tiny little feet are perfect for snatching eyeballs out.
That guy that runs that page is a lunatic. I don't want to like talk crap, but he's out of his mind. That guy, man.
Yeah, I mean, did
I tell that story on here already?
I think you did.
That he kicked me out of the page, the group, because I had a typo. I wrote red tail instead of red shoulder, and he's like, "Nice try trying to trick us." And he like blocked me, and then I went nuts on him, and he blocked me, so I couldn't say anything. And then I started looking him up, trying to find him, and then I typed his name in with the stupid hat, and then a YouTube video pops up of him like in this dark room with like wood paneling on the wall and like a hat and like this weird outfit. And he's doing like these he has like a knife. He's like a knife fighter, this guy. And he's like doing these knife.
You better not mess with him, dude.
Bro, I'm like, this guy. That's what I said. I was like, oh, good thing I didn't call this guy out to meet up. He's like, nice meeting. Yeah, guys, the guy, like, I was like trying not to be mean because I've heard so much bad stuff about that guy. But then after that, I was like, it was an honest mistake. It's clearly a red shoulder. I was just showing how cool they are. He's like, nope, nice try. You're out of here. And he just like completely blocked me from the group. I was like, okay.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's wild, man.
But anyway, Tom, how many falconers are there in New York?
Oh, man. I think license-wise, there's like maybe 300.
Okay. How many are actually flying?
Probably 150 would be my guess.
That's kind of a lot, I feel like. That's a lot.
I mean,
it's a big state.
Yeah, it is.
State, and like our traditions probably go back. I think California and New York probably have the oldest kind of. Just here in New York, at Cornell University, there's a guy by the name of Arthur Allen, and him with a few other guys were the people to put together what's called the Lab of Ornithology at Cornell.
Okay.
And that's where like all those bird apps, the Merlin app and stuff like that, that's where all that comes from. But they have one like, and then Heinz Mang, Tom Cade, forgetting his name, Jim Weber, they all like were graduate students at Cornell. So they all kind of learned under Arthur Allen. So he was kind of the first like sponsor, if you will.
Okay.
This is pre-licensing and stuff like that. But he wasn't a falconer himself, I don't think. But he was very pro his students getting into it and just trying things out, basically. And like Heinz, I think almost a lot of the falconry that those guys were doing in the beginning was just basically reading it out of books and stuff like that. So they were able to get the birds tamed down and kind of do a lot of that stuff. But as far as like their actual hunting, I think it took them a little while before they were able to kind of figure that part out. But we're talking, Heinz in the, basically the 50s. I think he became a professor of biology, and then he continued teaching up until the 90s. So he's kind of the godfather of New York State falconry.
Yeah, I heard that.
All of us learned from him, basically.
I heard that. Even living in Jersey and coming up in Jersey, I knew the name and I knew him. And then when I moved to New York, I was excited to see if I could try to fly with him. And then he moved like the year before or something. I moved there.
Oh, he passed away a few years ago.
That's what it was. He passed away. I was like, okay.
I think he was almost 100.
He moved away big time.
Moved real far away.
Yeah. Is Heinz Mang, because there's a lot of the audience that's listening is probably like, who the hell is this guy? Is he the guy that came from like Czech Republic and he used to fly sparrowhawks and lure fly the sparrowhawk? And like that's all he had access to. Is this the same gentleman? Is he from like Czech Republic or like?
You're talking about Anatoly.
Anatoly. Okay, yeah, I'm getting these.
Yeah, I think people will know him. He lives out west now. He's
that's the guy I was thinking of.
Yeah, I think he's been on one of those other podcasts. One of like their first episodes or something like that. But he's from the Ukraine, and I think he's a biologist in the Ukraine. And he got into falconry, but all they had really to work with that he could like get access to were like little sparrowhawks, basically, like, you know, something probably in between a sharp-shinned and a Cooper's hawk sort of thing. So he just he was into falconry, but he never really felt like he was like really doing falconry until he emigrated here to the United States, and he was able to get a falconry license and get himself a big. I think his first falcon was a gerfalcon, and he moved from closer to the city to right down the road from us, because what I was talking about before, that special like hunting spot that we have here. He moved right to the outskirts of that area, would be out hunting basically any chance he got. Some of his birds caught snow geese and stuff like that. He was after it.
It's awesome.
And he met Steve Shingren, learned and then ended up out in Idaho. Saw what that place was like. Built a house out in Idaho. And now he lives out there.
Okay, so that's probably the guy I was thinking of then, because he moved right when I before I moved to the state, and I wanted to fly with him and see how he did it. But yeah, he was the guy that opened up my eyes on that episode, talking about, you know, how the sparrowhawks, they catch a lot of birds, so why couldn't you lure fly them and train them with a lure like a falcon? It's the same thing. And I put it to the test. I would get my big, you know, Siberian goshawks to make like 3, 4, 5 passes to the lure and then give it to her.
Yeah,
you know, which is
Anatoly is a character. So one of the things he did, which is really cool, he lost a few falcons to red tails. You know, catching things 3 fields away. Red tail came out of a tree, fucking killed his bird. I think it happened like maybe like 2 or 3 times, and then he finally said "fuck it," and he went and got himself a German short-haired pointer. And the dog was basically, it was, you know, out there flushing game, but where we go out and hunt, you can see everything for the most part. It wasn't really doing a lot of flushing, but what its main job was to go follow the fucking bird. And when it got to where the bird had landed with its catch, it would just do circles around the bird and keep it safe from, you know, red tails and Cooper's hawks and shit like that. But he also, like, the amount of drones that dude lost, I swear to God, I don't think I've ever met anybody lose more drones than him. He would like, he's a tech guy with what he does now. So he would like fuck with them and take them apart and stuff like that. And the guests would just go at a fucking whack, and he'd be like flying, you know, trying to like, you know, drone his bird. And all of a sudden the drone would just fucking take off. Like, swear to God, would like, you know, it would just go until it ran out of batteries, and like I think he
kill somebody.
It would like land in a river and shit. And he was putting telemetry on them, like, you know, Marshall telemetry on them, so he could try and find them again when they ended up in all these different places. And he lost too much telemetry that he stopped doing that. But he was
why? Just because he liked to tinker with stuff?
He liked to tinker, but he'd buy these really like these cheap but really big drones, so that he would take like the Dogtra launchers for like pheasants and bring them up into the fucking sky. and he'd invert them, so when the bird got close, it would just launch this pheasant down at like 40 miles an hour, basically. Oh my God, it's so funny.
That's hilarious. That's clever.
It worked, man. He got himself some really, really good fucking duck hawks and geese hawks and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
But he's so out of the box with his thinking and stuff like that he just does like wild shit like that. And you're like, hey, man,
that's cool.
Go for it. Yeah,
dude, I like that stuff, man, because so many people, they think that you got to stay inside these lines and do things a certain way, and I feel like that's part of the problem with our culture as falconers, is we fight a lot because we all kind of think that there's only one way to skin a cat or to do something. And yeah, maybe, some ideas are a little nuts, but like sometimes like, you get to the same place, but by a different route. Pretty cool. And then you can, instead of attacking people, you can kind of like hear the way that they do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm not really on social medias because I can't stand like people
Thinking outside the box.
No, there's people I don't know commenting on shit. Like if you're like, hey man, that's really cool, great, If you're fucking like, I wouldn't do it this way, I'd do it this way, like fuck off. Like
I appreciate the honesty. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, like, if somebody, like there's the like you guys know there's a right way to come at somebody and then there's the wrong way to go at somebody,
Yeah.
And if you like the biggest thing about social media, I'll say, is that I was on there, and this is especially Facebook. I know these falconers personally. I've met them. I've hunted with them. I like them as human beings. And then I'd see the shit that they've posted on Facebook, and I'd be like, this is making me not like this person who I like, And I was like, this isn't
following
real.
Casey.
Yeah, he's fine.
Alienating everybody.
Yeah, Casey, I found we hadn't even met yet, but it was that Karen bird. We should tell that porcupine story real quick.
Oh, it's a great story.
So, but yeah, I found out about Casey just from that Karen bird smashing geese in the fucking cemetery. Just been like, man, good for this kid getting after it. But yeah, Casey came up. I think that was the first New York State meet he came up to.
Yeah.
And I have a buddy who's not a falconer, but he's a hunter, and he lives like right outside the town where this meet is. So when I go up there, every time I'm like, man, if you know any good like spots that we can go to where you think there might be some game for us. Sometimes he brings us to some good spots. Sometimes not so much.
Sometimes you walk around for 4 hours and
for a while, not fucking finding anything. But he brought us to his buddy's property, and Casey puts Karen out, and I think she would just basically like she would recall to your glove, but you just had her basically up in the trees, I think.
Yeah. She would follow. She would follow okay, but not as good as I've figured out how to get him to follow better now. But she followed a little bit because it was kind of one of those spots where it was like,
I mean, we were in thick pines. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like not practical to be on the glove the whole time.
Nah, it wasn't. But we came like down over the side of this hill, and all of a sudden she just, beelines it for the top of this tree and slams into this thing. And when we got to it, it was a fucking full-size male porcupine. And she was doing everything she could to rip that thing out of the tree.
Yeah.
This thing, it was all four of its fucking little fucking clawed legs were holding on to this pine branch with everything it fucking had. And this bird was just kept she would take like a couple minutes, and then she'd fucking try and rip it back off again. And you were able to, you threw out the lure? Is that how you got her to give it up?
I think that we were all kind of like just in disbelief what was going on, and like watching
Totally.
and like hoping she was going to get it off, and then we could like get it on the ground. But then, we all kind of realized like pretty quick that, it's a friggin' porcupine. They climb trees for a living. There's no way this bird's going to rip this 40-pound animal off this tree.
It was probably close to like
it was huge. It was big. And so then she lets go, and then she started chittering up in the tree, started distress calling because the quill started stabbing the crap out of her.
He was covered in
quills. And then I think I like threw a squirrel carcass, and the poor thing, she comes down with the quills all in her feet. And then I traded her off, got her up on the glove, and she's like half sitting on the glove. And that's why Tom, I was like so impressed with Tom because like, I'm not like, I cast a bird when I'm flying red tails maybe once a year, but usually I try to change the equipment without doing any of that. So I'm not used to like grabbing birds all the time, especially like imprint goshawks. And Tom is just like, I'm like, what do we do? He's like, we got to get these quills out. We can't leave them in like this. So he like expertly, like flawlessly, like slides his hand up real smooth and just locks onto her legs. And she didn't like it. And then we flipped her over, and then Tom's holding her, and I'm like trying to pull the quills out, and he's telling me what to do and making sure I grab it by the base. And then
she had them all all in her face. Like there were
Everywhere.
like some like just like a few millimeters from her eyes and shit like that. Had them all in her breast, all on her feet. And she did not give a fuck.
Yeah, she really didn't. She just looked like she wanted to get back up the tree to get it again.
Yeah. And then
she was a great
you ended
bird.
up flying her later that afternoon, and she caught something later.
Caught a squirrel. Yeah, we pulled it. And I watched her like a hawk. I watched her after that for like weeks after that, waiting to see if like her feet would swell. And I was constantly checking her breast and her behavior because, as we know, like those quails, they'll work their way in, they'll, whatever. So I was super paranoid about that. And then the landowner, he came out. He's like,
brought his 22 out. He's like, you want me to shoot it?
I was like, shoot the shit out of that thing right now. He shot it. And we took a picture.
To your bag. I made it to your bag.
Made it to my bag. And then I took it home, dude. I took it home. I left it in my truck. It was freezing that night.
That thing smelled too.
It was gross. Yeah. I froze it. Right. And then I made a big bonfire at my house when I got home. I take this thing. It's like half frozen. Actually, I don't even think it was fully frozen. It was just cold. And I threw it in the bonfire for like 30 minutes, dude. Trying to singe off all the hair to get the skin. So then, because I heard they're really good to eat. Mm-hmm. Dude, I was in a bonfire for like 30 minutes straight. I take it out of the bonfire and I scrape all of the ash away. There's still a full inch of like, and it's not down obviously like a bird, but it was like these tiny hairs, like to keep them insulated. And it was still cold. The flesh was still cold, like ice cold to the touch.
That's
and then I had to keep scraping it, putting it back in, taking out, keep scraping. And then I quartered it out and put it in my freezer. And I meant to like put it in a crock pot and eat it, but then I just got grossed out. I ended up just feeding it to my birds.
I know they say it looks like it tastes good, but yeah, they are nasty little things.
Nasty looking, yeah. And then we saw another one that day too. Hey?
What's that? Yeah, we found another one later on that weekend.
And then, okay, so this was my other experience because I only did it when I was a kid with Ottinger, who's a New York falconer as well. But this was something that I have a fond memory of, and it involves Harris hawks. When we met up with your uncle, Brian, and it was either his birds or you threw your bird up too, and we were chasing those. Remember that we were chasing those squirrels all around the woods with the two Harris hawks? That was such a fun experience. We went to this like random like lake park thing, and just watching these Harris hawks, man, I was getting into it, dude. I was running. These things are going down. The other one's going this way. That one's going that way, spinning upside down. And they ended up catching one or two, right? I can't remember.
I think we got one after like walking for a while. And then the second one was like right after it.
Yeah. And it's just, I mean, as much as like people talk and like we talk crap about Harris hawks and like a lot of people don't like seeing two birds fly. I mean, when you're trying to catch squirrels, it's so nice to have another bird there, like to pick up the slack and like cut the thing off, and it's bailing from one tree and then the other one hits it midair and it falls and the other one follows it. It is a lot of fun.
You guys are going to like what I say next. I bet you we're going to piss off a lot of fucking people with this one. Okay. So I personally think that falconry is basically like skiing. If you learn how to do it on the East Coast, you're so much better than if you learned how to do it on the West Coast.
That's what I'm talking about.
You go flying out west and it's just like, this is the easiest shit in the world. Like, yes, all I have to do is fucking walk places. Like everything is open. Like you just see and find everything. What we have to deal with is just completely different. So yeah, I mean, working squirrels and rabbits on the East Coast is a completely different game than anywhere else.
I'm just picturing the listeners, you know, that Kermit the Frog gif where he's like going like this with his arms like freaking out. It is true though, and I've been saying that for years that that is true, and it's not like an elitist thing, and it's not saying we're better than anybody, but it's just like
it's just different conditions.
It's harder.
Trying to work the same birds in those different conditions just present different types of skills. And anybody who's skied or snowboarded will know what I'm talking about. On the East Coast, you're dealing with ice and just terrible fucking conditions that force you to have to become like a much like, not like, I wouldn't even say better, just like you have to have more skills in your fucking like tool bag basically. Whereas when it's just like fresh powder out west, you know, like
Yeah.
You can literally fall over and you don't hurt yourself at all. Like, you're not breaking bones or getting concussions. That's the way I look at falconry out there. Like, when I've gone out and followed birds out there, it's so much fucking fun. So much fun. Seeing all the fucking rabbits just run around, like, just everywhere. But, like, I'm just like, yeah, this is fun, but it's fucking easy. Like, don't get me wrong, I fly Harrisocks. I love easy falconry. But it's just, it's a different type of situation for sure.
It's a good point that you made there.
Yeah, if anybody's really upset with me, you can reach me at NJ Falconry.
I mean, it's just the truth. I mean, and I would say, and I'll go as far as to say that us in Jersey, and I don't know about North Carolina because it's pretty thick down there. I don't know. It's got to be pretty rough down there. But
it's like
having gone to Maine and seeing the conditions up in Maine, like, dude, I would not want to enter a bird up in Maine. Like, oh my God, you get a new imprint. The friends of ours that are the goshawk people up there that are gonna remain nameless. They have a fresh imprint, and I'm like, how are you gonna do this? It's like the sticks are like the trunks of the trees are damn near touching each other. It's like a wall. Like, how are you entering these birds? All pines, thick as hell.
Anytime I've ever driven through Maine, I'm like on the highways, like, oh man, I can't wait to check out this beautiful state. And you cannot see a fucking thing. It's
just a wall of trees,
pine trees, just like almost like a barrier fence everywhere you go. If your bird goes, I would say 15 to 20 feet away from you, you have lost sight of it.
Exactly. I mean, I would say that the people up there, like, that are getting it done, and there's plenty that do, like, they're really working hard to get those slips, to get the game up there. And it's just a different thing. It's not saying that, like, I would say that it's a fact that people that are in conditions like that have to work harder or have better dogs to get slips. And I mean, it's just like, I see the videos of guys just in shorts and sneakers catching rabbits with Harrisocks. I mean, that it can't be that difficult if you're wearing shorts and sneakers. Like, come on. I'm not trying to like piss anybody off.
I mean, it's just more like, if your bird fucks off fucking chasing after something, like, you can just see it. It can literally fly 2 miles away from you, and you're just like, oh yeah, there goes the bird. Oh, let me try and recall it. Oh, well, look, it comes right back to me again. That's incredible. And then flying falcons, especially, it's just like, yeah, I mean, of course you can sky the bird out at 2,000 feet. Like, I don't think I've ever really pushed a bird. I mean, with a drone, just for the fun of it, I've gone up to probably maybe only 1,000, maybe 1,500 or something like that. But here on the East Coast, like, a duck goes from one pond to the next pond before a fucking bird can drop 1,500 fucking feet.
Exactly. It's not practical.
It's not at all. You can get away with skying birds out or letting them be able to chase things that far. As you guys know, a bird chases something that far, I'm sprinting right behind it the entire fucking time, trying to keep up with it. Just A, to make sure I don't lose where the bird is catching what it's going after, and B, trying to keep the fucking thing safe from all the red tails and Cooper's hawks we've just been talking about.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I remember telling guys out west when I was at a meet that I in the summertime when I'm flying my Harrisocks, I might put 3 bells on them, like a tail bell and then 2 bells, one on each foot, basically. Just because with all the leaves on the trees, the only way I know the bird is still following me is because of the bells. I cannot see it at all, especially if we're if
put
it's
one on its neck too.
I just
4 bells.
4 bells. You're never gonna lose your bird.
No, I mean, it's hard to lose Harrisocks anyway. If you're training them, everything's good. But what I'm most worried about is I'm fucking off across a field to go chase after something, and I haven't. I'm sitting there talking with my guests and people I do the shows for and stuff like that, not paying attention, and fuck me, now I'm spending the next hour going to look for a bird, and I've got people waiting at the house for my next program and stuff like that. So
do you ever get I know it's a little off topic, but do you ever get that when people pay and they go on the hunt and you have a special permit that allows you to do that, which is super cool. if something like that happens, do you ever get people like, well, your bird was over there for 30 minutes, and like, do I still have to pay? Like, you ever get anything? I'm sure if you're dealing with customers and general public, I'm sure you get all kinds of crap. But do you have any funny stories like of crazy stuff happening? Like weddings or like whatever, like all the stuff you do?
Oh, the wedding stuff. Yeah, those ones are funny. As far as doing the programs here, mainly no, just because I'm flying on my own property that these birds know so fucking well. Like literally, I mean, we're walking through these trails and they're just going from the same perch to the same perch to the same perch.
Right.
So it's really only if they decide to fuck off to go take a bath. Which they do, especially in the summertime, more regularly. And like I can put out water for them in the morning, and they'll still just be like, "Nah, I feel like taking a bath right fucking now." And then, or they're chasing game. Like I mean, even through the summertime, we're still. I'm not trying to catch anything, but we're still. I mean, the one hair's hawk grabbed onto a turkey the other day. One dove after a muskrat the other day. Grabbed onto a few squirrels, but I'm like trying to like not catch them. I want to wait till it's the time to be catching things.
Yeah, I remember we were at that property with this North American, and she caught she caught the squirrel, and then she caught the rabbit like 30 seconds later. And I remember I was like, we should let this thing go. Like leave it for for your other people. Like I don't want to take one of your rabbits. And then wasn't something funny happen? We cut it loose and it went down the hole, and then
Ginger went back out. Yeah,
Ginger goes down the hole and then pulls it back out, and I'm like yelling at her, and I felt bad yelling at her.
I think she did more damage to that rabbit than the fucking goshawk did.
Yeah, dude, that was a great little hunt, man.
Anytime my dogs grab a rabbit and I clean the rabbit later, that rabbit is destroyed. Like its bones are pulverized.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they do that little like crunch, 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 crunch.
yeah, they love it. And you run dachshunds. You've ran dachshunds in the past as well, right?
Yeah, our first dachshund came from Teddy. We had it was Penny. She was. I mean, we were lucky with her. Like we legitimately didn't have to show her anything or do any training with her. She was just day one, fucking instinctually just slamming her nose down into holes, fucking. I mean, the amount of shit that dog killed just on her own was insane. And if not, she would bark it literally to death, to deafness, excuse me, until we came over there and fucking put a bullet in it or whatever it was, just to get her to shut the fuck up. Because as Casey knows, we don't really have kennels here. The dogs are pretty much kind of free to be running around. The other day, my Springer and my current dachshund fucked up a fox until I went over there and put it out of its misery.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, the Springer got a bunch of like kind of scratches and cuts around her neck, but the dachshund was completely fine. The dachshunds are just awesome dogs. I love having them. They're awesome to work with. As far as doing what we use them to do, like I don't care what anybody says. There's nothing better. I'd love to work with beagles, but I think you guys have discussed before. They're just too fucking loud. Yeah. Amount of tension, and just even when they're not working, just all that yapping. Like I have too many neighbors. I piss them off enough probably with the dogs as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've had worked with had a Springer that when we were younger, we got two Springers from England. One, the male, his name was Sergeant Smudge.
Sergeant Smudge.
He came from the Chatsworth Estates in England, which is one of the big hunting preserves that's there. And the reason why they let him go was because when he was because they train those dogs like rigidly. It's like one of those things where like you show up, you get a dog, it sits right at your feet, you shoot, all your birds, and then you send the dog out to retrieve, and it goes and picks up, the first bird, the second bird, the third bird, brings them all back to you. And his problem was he would just, as he was bringing back, one of the birds he had to retrieve, he would just go stick his nose into the bush next to him to go find the next one, basically. And they couldn't break him of it, which for us, we didn't give a fuck. Like, that's perfect. So we had him, and then the female that we got, Bowden. While Smudge's ancestry was just basically nothing but national field champions, Bowden actually had international field champions in her pedigree.
Oh, wow.
So she wasn't actually ever hunted with, but she was actually probably was born with the better nose. We had them for years. We're just excellent hunting dogs. Once Smudge got older, one of my Hairsock race kind of ruined him, just because as he got older, he got a little bit slower, and she just wasn't having it. She just started coming down and whacking him on the back of the head. Find this game for us, God damn it. He got real sick of that real quick. But yeah, when I've bred labs for a bunch of years, and then when she finally passed away, my last female, I was like, you know what? I think it's time to get back into the springers. And then thanks to Aaron, I finally got myself another lurcher again. 2 of them. Wasn't planning on 2, but we got 2 of them. And I've had lurchers before. We had one that was just a straight, Greyhound Border Collie cross. And then we had one of those, this guy, Irvin Franklin. He passed away a few years ago. People out west will know who he is. He bred coyote dogs, and this one was, it was every bit as tall as either a Scottish Deerhound or Irish Wolfhound.
Jeez.
As lean as a greyhound. And I think he put Mastiff in it. He put all sorts of shit into these dogs, but this thing was just big, powerful, fast, everything. He actually broke his leg taking down a deer out where we go hunt our birds. And unfortunately, he got hit by a car maybe a year later or something like that, chasing after something across a road.
Jeez. That's the problem, right? Running those dogs in our kind of area.
Big time. Yeah, I'm probably, we don't have a fenced in yard here, but with these new lurchers, just to be safe, I'm probably going to have to fence in a big chunk of it.
Not a bad idea. Tom
did a DNA test on those lurchers to see exactly what their makeup was, because the mom was border collie, right? Quote unquote border collie. And this is coming from a real deal, dog man, legit guy. But as far as he's concerned, it's a border collie, They're not concerned with the AKC, purebred dogs. They're worried about function.
Yeah. And so you lose almost all the health issues as soon as you start crossing things. So, you're better off doing it anyway.
So the makeup was what? The mom was like border collie, Kelpie collie.
Yeah.
Catahoula leopard dog.
That was the big one. Yeah, Catahoula leopard dog, which I was like, holy shit, I've never seen one of those fucking things.
That's cool.
She was like 25% Catahoula, I think.
Oh, yeah, 20 something, 22% or something like that.
And I think even the mom had some sort of sighthound. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the dad was almost completely greyhound and whippet going back, but then also had the pit bull in it.
Yeah. Which makes sense because they breed them in for their bite to grab, but to your point, it's they're completely worried about the function and I guess the health too, because healthy dogs are cheaper when you've got a whole packs of them. But they came from real working stock. Like the mom came from a ranch in Texas, like where the dogs work. Mm-hmm. They have a real job herding. And he had said the mom has a bite that could put a pit bull to shame, biting a bull's nose, hanging onto a bull. And the dad is a coyote killer. Oh
no.
Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, we'll have to wrap it up. Casey's iPad's about to die as well.
And we covered like everything.
I still feel like we were just scraping the surface on just about everything.
Oh yeah,
I know.
We still have a lot we could talk about. We didn't really get into abatement or any of the education stuff.
Yeah, we got to do we gotta do you'll be one of the people we need for part 2, part 3.
Yes.
All right. Thanks for coming on, Tom. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Nah, I'll just say I think I listened to your guys the first episode I listened to was like the 3rd or 4th episode. And, as I think Casey mentioned earlier, like I spend all day just thinking, breathing, just doing birds, so when I listen to podcasts, I normally like to listen to like other shit just because it's nice to kind of turn the brain off and just kind of learn other shit, just think about other shit. I follow other sports and stuff like that. So, we'll listen to podcasts about that. So I never really listened to too many hunting or falconry podcasts, but I listened to this one out of, kind of respect for Casey and stuff. Because I knew he was like, he'd been talking about it for a while. And as soon as I listened to the first one, I like immediately went back and listened to like every episode and was just like, damn, this show is fucking good. Just because it's just like a fun conversation sort of thing, which are like my favorite podcasts to listen to.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, just keep doing what you guys are doing. I think a lot of people are learning lots of like, I don't know shit about hunting fucking bears with dogs, and listening to that dude talk about it was a lot of fun. And just other people's perspective on especially different types of hunting is just I think the coolest part of what you guys are doing, especially people hunting with other types of animals.
Yeah.
Well, that encapsulated exactly what we were trying to do, what we set out to do with the podcast. So
yeah, well done, guys.
Thank you, man.
The next time you guys get me on, we'll have to talk about hunting with cheetahs and stuff like that.
Oh God.
yeah, we got a lot we could cover.
You do us a favor and get those small eagles going.
Oh man, Tom, I'm telling you right now, if you need somebody to help with the legwork, let me know, please. To get some African black sparrowhawks in here, I will do whatever it takes.
Time and money, boys. You got lots of those. We can get whatever we want.
I could find some somewhere.
I don't have much of either of those, to be honest with you.
I'm pretty much flat broke on both of those things. So.
Yeah.